Coffee and Cream on Hale Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Pretty impressive. Another turnover. Here he is, and since the ball buries
we
it.
can do that. That's what he's done all year long.
His team best 60th three-pointer of the season. The lead is 23, and Wisconsin takes a timeout.
A little home run. Look out. On a It's rejected. They scored the goal. They scored the goal. They scored the goal. It was inside the cylinder. Wow. They're going to take a look at it. Wow, indeed.
Ohio State hasn't scored in over 6 minutes. Justice Suing changing that right there. Big time play. That right to the chest of Tyler Wall.
Some really good perimeter catch and shoot. Tell me up. Look out. Justin's hit 2 in a row now. And a timeout by Patrick Ewing.
Very well done. No, it's not. And Tominaga says three-pointers aren't hard. That trap comes to the baseline side. Carrington, that one almost hit the roof before it fell through.
You've got to have more ball pressure.
Derek Walker, the 6-year senior, partially blocked, but look at Tominaga flying in.
Hey, welcome in Thursday morning here on Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hale Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. Although it feels like a Tuesday for me, I'm happy that I can say Thursday versus Tuesday.
Is it because is it 3/4? 4/5? Amazing Daniel, get on me. No, Jamie, my mathematician. Is it because you're 4/5 of the way through the work week?
Why did you make that so difficult for me to think about?
So because number one, because it's me. Number two, I didn't know if I should go 4 out of 7 or 4 out of 5.
Hey, are you 13, 15th out of the week?
So it's just like, I'm just going to stick with the weekdays and make the number clean. 4/5.
Yeah,
Is it because
I'm 80th out of 100?
Yeah. Is it because you're 80% through the work week and not 40%?
No,
because I believe that's 2 out of 5.
It feels like I'm 40% out of the work week because I returned yesterday.
At full disclosure, is it scary sometimes thinking how I
Think?
like? Yeah. Yeah. Because even I'm real time, like, shouldn't be that hard. Just say 4 out of 5. But in the same vein, I was like, well, do I do 7 days a week? But I don't know what 4 out of 7 is. Not off the top of my head.
As you say a sentence sometimes, you think about how to make it more complicated.
Hey, man, this is because you're, I don't know, how many days in are we?
4.
Yeah.
We are 4.
At the end of the day, for landing the plane on a very slick runway, it's because this is only your second day back at work, but it's 4 days through the work week.
Good call on saying slick runway. It is a little slippery outside today, although not much like sticking to the actual road. I believe it's above.
We're very
freezing.
fortunate that it's 33 degrees right now.
Okay, so it is.
And I think we only got down to 30. And so it's not enough to like lower the concrete temperature. It would have to be significantly cooler than freezing. But I needed it to be cold because we have some friends of the show that brought down another half of beef yesterday. Now they're in Aurora. It was hard for me to get back there.
Right.
So I think they were sick of waiting. So they met me at the Devaney.
Wow.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And so the parking attendants at the Devaney let me get like super close because Zoe didn't have a coat, which is a whole nother.
Just forgot? Was it a Zoe thing or was it a
We're not going there. We're not going there. Zoe just forgot her coat.
Okay.
So we had to, had to make sure that she could get in quick and not be very far away. Ended up getting a coat, by the way, so it's okay. But they pulled in, our guys from the meat locker pulled in, put it in the back of my trunk, like in 3 minutes.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And so not only.
And how much meat was it? Like a half a cow?
Yeah. So I called one of my coaches last night because I'm gonna take care of him. I love the guy. So we're trying to arrange. I said, hey, can I just put this in the back of your truck during the course of the school day? Because he teaches, and I don't want it outside. So long story longer, I took a couple of bags home that I could hold.
Right.
There's 2 in the back freezer here, and I have
No
one
way.
and I have one on my porch.
Stop it.
Dude, I'm trying to do a good deed. It's the best I could do.
Hey, I think it's amazing what you're doing, but the fact that you have beaten 3 different spots.
I wanted him to come get it last night, but
Does he live far?
No, but his little guy has a lot of complications medically, and so it's not just easy for him to get in and out.
You didn't
sometimes
pull an
lot of
Aurora
stress.
and meet him at his house.
Well, you know what? I wanna drop it off, but it would just be his son and his wife, and I don't want to. It's a little bit of work, so
you don't want to intrude, and
so I prefer he takes good care of me emotionally. So I need to look out. He's kind of like my little woosah. I get a little stressed sometimes. I sat in the back row yesterday, section 119. Last row, first time I've sat on that side of the arena to watch state basketball.
Nobody around you?
No, Maya was with me.
Okay.
So she was with me the whole. It doesn't matter like where I went. Like, it's a good day. It was a good father-daughter day.
Bonding day?
Yeah. Like, so she was with me, and we have a similar personality when it comes to watching games. Talk very little, just watch. Plus, she gets it because she was just in that arena.
Just a sentence or two here.
So I just told
to
myself, man, I had to switch it up. I usually sit in kind of the same section, kind of the same thing, and I've only seen one win at the state tournament in my family in like the last 3 years. So I was like, yeah, I better do something different. So I sat up.
You pulled it off.
It was cool. It was right where the youngsters are up there kind of doing the broadcast. You know where I'm talking about?
Yes, I do.
There's like the emeritus sign over there. And so I was right back against that far wall, and it was fine. Never sat in the middle of the floor before. It was a weird
good thing
angle.
You were in the seats then.
Yeah,
because if you were in the middle of the floor, you would have interrupted play.
Middle
of the floor.
So that angle, like,
you're at the 50.
Yeah, it's overrated.
Really?
Yeah.
You would rather sit at like the end?
So, Shane, what's that song? Torn Between Two Lovers, Feeling Like a Fool. It's old. Your parents would know it. Breaking all the rules.
Yeah,
they probably slow dance to it. I bet. Barry's like,
yeah,
I know that. Yeah. So I'm kind of torn because
if you reacted like that, I'd lose my mind.
WWBD. So the coach in me wants the overhead end zone.
Okay.
Because I can see things open up.
You're playing
the
as if you're coaching,
broadcaster,
as if you're playing.
The broadcaster in me is cool with the 50-yard line thing, but it's not ideal for me.
Would you still rather, if you were broadcasting a football game,
I go back
in the end zone?
So if I'm up high enough, yes, because I still need to be able to see depth.
Mm-hmm.
I still want to see like how far. Like I want to see how far away that street light is there. So I need to be high enough.
Right.
But I like the angle better.
You know what? Hockey does that where they have somebody up top. They're center ice, but then they have somebody on the ice. What if football in like unique circumstances had, Greg up wherever you guys normally sit, and then you got kind of like your own spot on occasion, not all the time.
So
and then you could watch the game from the 50.
So we tried that.
The end zone.
We tried that with BTN, where they would be doing the television broadcast, and it was cool that they trusted me, but I was on the field because in essence I could be an analyst, but I was on the field. I think because I was too low on the totem pole to get in the booth, right? They got guys on contract, like real contracts, not
like Tony Romo contracts,
not 4 games a season. But they left my mic open, so they would use me like a third analyst.
Yeah,
and I like that's cool, right? It's kind of hard to do, but I always remembered something that Kugler told me from day one. He's like, hey, just remember, give them a reason to come to you. Don't just talk to be talking. So like
Great advice.
that's, and it's easy. You know, that's the whole simple, easy thing that Rive and I got into. Like, you know, we hear things that sound so simple, but aren't always so easy to execute. Like Matt Rule says some things and you're like, yeah, no guff. People like you sometimes say guff. I was like, hey, what's guff? But once I learned, I looked that up. You remember that's a real word, rigmarole.
It is.
So once I learned, like, it's simple enough advice, and it works, because then I figured out what I didn't like to hear from everybody else. Like, I don't want the weather report on the field or what the temp is on the turf, or but hey, like, listen, if it's interesting, let's talk about it. But I guess I'll say all that to say, man, appreciate the guys at the Devaney for allowing me to park. They wouldn't take my money. I tried. The guy was so cool. He was like, "Just leave me a couple of steaks." I was like, "I'll cook them for you." I'm not opening all these.
What? Would you like a side of mashed potatoes?
I'm not opening these bags that I
How
can't
about some
see.
roasted carrots?
See through. They're orange garbage bags. So I have a couple of orange garbage bags on my porch, and I'm like, looks a little
suspicious,
off,
a little suspect.
But I can hang in there for another 4 or 5 hours till I get it in the back of his pickup. Like, get this out of here.
What else comes in an orange garbage bag?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, I feel like
there's 2 back there in the freezer if you want to go take a look.
Yeah, I will. I'll go inspect them. I feel like that's something that you see in a medical lab.
Can you imagine Nick looking at me yesterday? It's 6 o'clock. I'm fresh off the interstate from Lincoln. And he's got a dinner rush, like a real job. And he's wondering why these garbage bags are backed up to the back door. But Bill was cooler than a fan. Like, I called him. I was like, hey, man, I know this really isn't your job, but I just don't want to get cussed out by Verzal. Because sometimes I put the meat over at Paisans, and I didn't want to hear his mouth. I was like, can I just come here since it's on my way?
You? You can cuss me out later.
Yeah.
Just let me know that it's okay.
So, oh, man, but heck of a day in Lincoln. It was a heck of a day at the Big East tournament. And ominous foreshadowing. I was sitting there talking to one of the guys who does broadcasts. I was messing with Strick before some of the state games in Lincoln, and I was talking to Chuck Johnston, who sometimes tweets at us. He's former athletic director. He runs the High School Hall of Fame. So he's kind of a historian, even though he's not a super old guy. He says, "How do you feel about tonight?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know, man. Feels like Lady Luck's about to run out. The line stinks. Everybody's fast forwarding for Nebraska."
Not me.
And he goes, and he's fairly savvy, and he goes, "Yeah, it just doesn't quite feel right." And I was like, damn it. 78-75.
Well, like I said yesterday, it's hard to beat a team 3 times in
but see, I didn't know if I believe that, though.
Man, I've lived it so many times. Like in high school, I mean, maybe.
So
maybe
if you're better, it's not if you're better.
Right.
I just wasn't sure Nebraska was going to be able to be better.
Man, everything stuck out to me going into this game that they were going to be better than the latter, because, well, yes, Minnesota has nothing to play for. Nebraska had.
See, I didn't like that either.
Right.
Because I'm like, hey, man, if you're going to lace it up and get your ass out there, you got everything to lose. Like, that's how I am as a player, right? Like, you got some pride on the line.
No,
right?
and I get that, but.
And they balled, but Nebraska still had every opportunity.
They started the game off really strong. I don't know if they got too comfortable, but shots really weren't falling, even though they went up 8-0 to start the day. Then Minnesota started hitting.
Multiple opportunities at
it. And, as much as basketball is a game of runs, this was something that it was all about building leads and trying to put out the fire. And it started in Nebraska's favor, right? Because they got off to such a quick start. But once things changed, once Minnesota went on that 21-8 run, all of a sudden you could kind of feel that Minnesota has something going for them right now. Their freshmen weren't playing like freshmen.
Garcia started to get it going.
They were hitting from beyond the arc consistently, and they were also getting to the rack. And then all of a sudden you had mental mistakes start to weigh in on Nebraska. You had some defensive breakdowns. You had, especially late in that game, with the shot clock winding down, you had CJ Wilcher bail out Minnesota and put him at the free throw line for 3 shots. Then you had back-to-back calls on offense where you set a screen, but you're moving. Was one more egregious than the other? I'd say so. I don't think Tominaga's was that
I get so
crazy.
I get bothered because they've made a concerted effort to call that. You see that a lot now with like moving screens, for lack of a better term. I just wish the ball handler would be more patient, because sometimes I think it's on the ball handler and he doesn't or she doesn't get enough of the flack for not being patient. Now, sometimes the screens can be a little subtle, especially now that they run so many slip screens, or some people call them ghost screens. Westside got beat on a beautiful 2-man game with a ghost screen in overtime against Bellevue West, but not that that sticks in my head or anything, or that I remember from 3 weeks ago, but it kind of does. Would you like to get back into that beating a team 3 times in a row again? Because
yes, let's do it.
I'm hoping that Bellevue West doesn't get the 3rd in a row.
Falls victim to that.
It's hard to beat a team 3 times. Well, when you beat a team once by 50, then you beat them in overtime, you may be the better team.
I also think Westside's playing their best basketball right now.
They are. We'll get to that later whenever you want. But like, they let Cooper kind of run the show, and he's like a prototypical old school throwback point guard. You know, kind of the weird body, takes care of the ball, knows where to get guys to rock. Like, they were good late, and it was driving me crazy. And when we talked to Graham yesterday, they did the proverbial play well for about 33, 34 minutes. Had a stretch where you're like, they don't belong on the floor. It just was out of character that they got the bad stretch out of the way early.
And I thought they did a great job of attacking Jamison Battle to get him out of that game. I mean, you saw back-to-back fouls come within a minute's time. And at that point, I thought, ooh, here comes the swing, right? Nebraska's going to swing in front. But I don't know how a Minnesota team that goes 7 deep, now 6 deep, was able to hold you off for another 9 minutes. I don't get it.
Nebraska only has 2 bench guys that played in double-digit minutes. I mean, they're in essence playing 7. And I don't know, like, what's wrong with Breidenbach sometimes, but he moves like it hurts. Right? So I'm like, okay, is he just giving us what he's got? Or does he really not kind of feeling good? And I thought the dagger, it wasn't even some of the key plays that you mentioned late. Nebraska was starting to maybe surge back. It was in the low 60s, high 50s. And Garcia made the 3 from the corner. And I was like, poop.
Well, it was every time Nebraska got close, Minnesota would extend it by 2 or 3.
And I was like, yeah, this one may not be.
Man, how about that? Speaking of Breidenbach, when he took that 3, did you think in your head what you thought about against Iowa? Like, hey, if this goes in, Nebraska wins this game. But if it doesn't, I think Minnesota is going to win this game. That's what went through my head.
You know, it's funny. I call those no, yes shots.
Right.
There were 2 of those that I distinctly remember at PBA yesterday, and they ended up going in. So I always kind of try to stay a little reserved.
Right.
But I think I cringed, so my hands were kind of down on the couch, and he shot it, and I pulled one of the, I like braced the couch. I was like, man, get in there. Damn it. Right?
No question was that a damn it moment.
So now we're like playing kind of the waiting game.
Do they get in?
Yeah, I don't know.
The NIT right around the corner, selection show on Sunday. If you look at every projection, Nebraska's not on that list.
I know it.
But there's still a lot that can happen in other tournaments.
It's not a soft bubble. What's the correct term when there are multiple teams that are kind of on the
brink?
Yeah. I don't know. It seems like the bubble's pretty expanded. It's not necessarily soft. Just seems like there's a lot of what if
there's a lot of what ifs.
They won't because they'll get beat tonight. But what if Nova made a run to steal a bid? Right? That's gonna bump another team that shouldn't be in the NIT into the NIT.
Yep.
So I mean, maybe if chalk and seeds hold, you need a lot less upsets, but yeah, I did kind of subtly slip that in. Creighton will be beating Villanova tonight. I watched them again last night. Close. I get it, but I don't. And I understand the matchup. They're not beating Creighton tonight. They won't.
You don't think with the reemergence of Moore for that?
Well, so he's still sometime. He's good. Listen, he's a stud, no doubt about it. But remember, they lost to Nova the last time with Daniels and Moore scoring, I think, 14 or 13 points. That shouldn't happen, right? So I think they're capable of defending. Nova doesn't play a ton of guys. Back-to-back nights. Creighton's got a good scout. I trust this staff and their scout. I'm telling you, give me the Jays. Watch.
Well, the Jays have been your team ever since you started that six-pack question last week.
Yeah.
And not to say that they weren't your team earlier on the
season.
So,
and I kind of asked you in passing. I don't know if we really landed the plane, but real time last week, and you kind of walked me through it yesterday. But I don't know if we landed. Would you have taken? Did you tell me you would have taken Nebraska minus the 1.5?
I took plus 1.5, right?
Yeah,
that's right. I took Nebraska plus 1.5 because I said I don't see Creighton beating Xavier.
Yeah. So Nebraska is still sitting at 0.
Mm-hmm. So they have 1.5.
But Creighton still has to win 2 more games.
That's why I said.
And when Robbie walked me through it, and he's like, no, because that means they got to be playing in the finals. And I was like, well, they can.
Well, yeah, you would think they could.
But he said win, because do you know what I think people were banking on? Nebraska winning the first game.
Yeah.
So now listen, if you laid the 1.5, which Shane did,
you're looking okay.
Yeah, he bet me the little mini pink sprinkles at Krispy Kreme. He likes the kid donuts. You know, the ones that
an actual donut, not like the
so
container of
he wants the 2 little mini frosted pink donuts.
And he bet
he's taking Creighton minus the 1.5.
What did you bet?
You
just stayed the house?
I liked Creighton.
But if he wins and you win, you still have to get him donuts?
No, we both like Creighton, but because I didn't have any skin in the game, it was he and L2.
Got it.
That's just because I don't know how many L's there are in Lula. It seems like a lot. I just say L2 sometimes. I'm gonna help help Shane out.
That's nice of you.
Yeah, you weren't in a great mood this morning, so
we're
gonna figure out your car situation.
We'll get into that because
we need to put out a bad signal for Darcy. That's what we need to do.
Well, I feel defeated.
I'm still trying to figure out how it happened.
Did you hear what he said?
I feel defeated.
Yeah, maybe we can solve that next.
We'll tell you why Shane needs Darcy Dingman next. Stick around. We'll also set up the show. It's Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hale Varsity Radio.
Momentum right now. Keep it. Okay, let's go out and get a stop right here. Push the ball down the floor. All right, push it. All right, keep our movement down here on this end. Movement's been phenomenal this half. All right, keep doing a great job of moving it.
Hey, welcome back to the show. What's that?
I love that audio. Just getting
inside the huddle?
Yeah. A lot of guys fake it. That was real.
You really think a lot of guys fake it?
Fudge.
Like, when you say a lot, like, what percentage of coaches do you think fake that?
I shouldn't say that.
I mean, they probably know it's there, so they maybe force a few things.
Yeah.
That
I would probably say that's because how do all these coaches not cuss?
Well, so they probably filter themselves.
That's what I'm saying. Like, am I getting the real authentic version? that one's felt pretty authentic.
Right.
I don't know, especially when it's players. Players got to
Sure.
be getting beeped the heck out. Beep, beep,
Well, if it was the
beep,
XFL,
beep,
it'd be fine because
beep.
that's what you hear all the time.
I'm telling you though, you don't because you like it and I like it. People kind of hate on the XFL. If they're being honest with themselves, it's a good product right now. For what it is out of season, XFL is a good
and
product.
I think people were itching for more football after the NFL season ended. So by getting that right away, the investment was already high.
Yeah.
So it helped. I will say this too. I looked this up. In St. Louis, the Battlehawks for the Edward Jones Dome. I don't really know the capacity for that. I'm gonna try to look this up. 66,965. That's the capacity. Guess how many tickets were sold for the Battlehawks?
Out of 66K? You have that sneaky delivery. Guess how many tickets were sold? I'll go with typical AR fashion. I'll go 43K.
Little less, 30K. But for the XFL,
it's pretty legit.
30,000
Hey, don't those
fans,
crowds seem pretty good?
Great. It seems a lot like you're watching, and I don't know how many soccer fans we have here, but like a small city soccer team.
Hey, who's the team the other day? Oh yeah, DB, like the XFL, you don't even know the teams. I'm drawing a blank, and no, it's not because I smoke. What's the team that they have the red, that's kind of red, white, and blue with the black padding on? Yes. How sweet are their uniforms?
DCs are sick.
Hey, those jokers are.
Is that who beat the Battlehawks over the weekend? I think it is.
Yeah. They
play defense.
I like the gear. I do. I don't like the team. Who does Kalen Ballage play for? They're black and gold. It's Heinz Ward's team. Those are the only uniforms that I don't really like. Although they asked Heinz Ward, I know I watch way too many sports, but they asked Heinz Ward what was going on. It was like 22-9,
San Antonio,
and he goes, "Hey, listen, no excuses. We're getting out coached. We're just flat getting out coached right now." I was like, "Damn!" Like, and there's
honesty there.
Yeah. So you know what's funny? Because I just had this conversation with. I don't want to put him out. Was talking to a coach yesterday at over the phone at PBA, and we were talking about social lives. Because I was like, oh man, I spent a lot of time in Lincoln this last however long. My schedule sucks, and he's like, man, how do you cover so many sports? He's like, you guys talk about women's sports, men's sports, high school sports, and I said, I heard something one time. And I'll be curious to see what you think, but maybe I shouldn't ask you until you're married for a couple of years.
Now I'm even more intrigued.
So I heard this about 5 years ago. And the story goes, you can only be good at two things at once. Stereotypically, the man's problem is he tries to do three. You cannot be good at your job, good in your household, and have a good social life. You have to pick two of the three. And he said, if you think you're good at all three, ask somebody that's involved in the other one and see what they think.
Have you ever played that game?
So I choose to try to be good at home and good at my job. So I watch a lot of sports and I spend a lot of time with my kids. My social life sucks. That's the one I'm giving up. And I think it's even more so in college. And student athletes, unfortunately, will try to do it all.
Right.
You got to pick two of the three. You got school, you got sports, you got your social life.
Mm-hmm.
You can only be good at two of the three.
Well, especially in this career field, I know people just think like, hey, you watch a sporting event and then you come in the next day and just talk about things. It's glamorous. Don't get me wrong, because we get to do this every day. But you're absolutely right, because this is how my day goes, and I'm not married right now. This is how my day goes.
You sure you don't want to wait until you're married?
I do the job. And then like I go home and I'll do like a little bit of me time, whether that's like, you work on the house a little bit or
You ran a little yesterday.
Yeah, I worked out. I ran 3 miles yesterday and my hammies are telling me or asking me why I did
There
that.
you go, telling me no.
Sometimes I watch a
again.
movie. Sometimes
Here
I'll
we
turn on
go.
Full Swing because I'm knee deep in Full Swing right now. And then once like 6 o'clock hits, it's dinner time. It's hey, you start watching games and prepping for the next day. And that's kind of how it goes. So that's the work side of things. Well, the personal life, excuse me, not the social life, but the side with Ashley is, we have dinner together. Like we hang out a little bit once she's done with work. We work out together. And so like that's how we keep the relationship going through the week. There is no social life throughout the week for me.
It's just
no social
I'll
life.
be curious. I'm sure there's some guys and gals out there that's like, yeah, I can pull off all three. And
my
I'm
my buddy called me earlier this week and goes, hey, I got a tee time at X Golf. Would you want to go for like an hour and a half to 2 hours? Like that's a long time for somebody at night that has to get up so early in the morning. He's like, yeah, the tee time's at 7. It'll go till 9. Well, if I go to X Golf, I know I'm not paying attention to sports like I should for those 2 hours. So I can't go to X Golf. I could maybe go to X Golf on Saturday, but even then, now I'm sacrificing the job for social life. So what you just laid out there is
somebody, I'm
beautiful.
Telling you, somebody told me that. It just, how weird things just stick in your head. And I used to try to challenge it. Oh, I could be a good OG.
I wish.
Actually, no, you can't. You know what I mean? It's just like
it's flickering.
Just got to stay on.
It's flickering.
So I
just got to stay on.
Even last night, Nebraska was on the same time that Miller North was playing, and then Gretna and Lincoln Southeast. And by the way, we're double dipping again in our coach's corner with Coach Brotzki
going to Class B today
from Plattview and Coach Jurgens from Skutt. Caleb is anytime we can get with him upstairs, at least me, like I'm enjoying, right? It's different with him and Jay because they're at school and they have their thing, but like just the father-son thing. And it's not about performance at, basketball or football. It's just chopping it up. Those times are not near enough. So he's like, hey, can we get the high school broadcast? I'm like, shoot, man, on the big TV, I'm watching Nebraska, Minnesota.
Full disclosure, I put the high school broadcast on my big TV and watched Nebraska on my phone.
So did I. I went and got my what's the little thing you put in your
AirPods?
Yes, but I don't have Apple, so I always don't say I get corrected by my kids at
every
home.
time.
I get corrected by my kids. Dad, those aren't AirPods.
Those are Samsung.
He said those
plugs.
He said those are Bluetooth headphones. I go,
Dad, those are Bluetooth headphones.
It's Micah. It's that little ding dong being him, but so that's I don't like to say AirPods, but yeah, that's what I did with the game, and I'm watching it on my phone. And I let the broadcast go on the TV because, I mean, that dude's on the couch upstairs about 3% of the time he's in that house. So just to be up there, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Let's go. But then I had to hear all the commentary from him during the course of the basketball games, and I was just like, bro, you realize sometimes this is you too, right? Like, now you know why I get pissed at you, like. Hey, see that open shot he just turned down?
Yeah, I've seen that before.
Yeah, I've seen that
once or twice. As DB put it, we're talking to the Class B coaches, the 1 seed and 2 seed in the bracket. Next, we got a loaded show ahead. The World Baseball Classic began, too. I don't know how much of a fan you are for that. I dabble into that. We'll talk about that learning curve and how that learning curve can also transition to Nebraska football. We have the Sports Six-Pack today. We're talking to Brian Edwards and Michael Bruntz as well. Loaded show, all of that and more next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hale Varsity Radio.
After I should say an incredible. Let's be grammatical. After an incredible first day of state championship basketball down at Pinnacle Bank Arena, Class A, Class C1, and Class D1 get a break, and now it's time for Class B, Class C2, and Class D2 to get going. And Class B is where we will sit for this segment as we are going around our high school coaches corner. Yesterday, we talked to Doug Woodard and Mike Etzelmiller. And today, it's time to talk to Plattview and Omaha Skutt, two guys that are your guys.
Yeah.
I feel like every high school coach, though, is your guy.
Well, Coach Brotzky is different. Like, as I told Zoe before I was leaving the house this morning, I was like, Zoe, I was just telling her who I was getting ready to talk to this morning, and she said, does he still have his boat? Because she's been on it.
Tim Brotzky.
Coach, good morning,
From
man.
the floor to the lake.
It's a shame that my daughter associates your tremendous coaching prowess with the pontoon. But, man, I apologize. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, DB. Hey, it doesn't feel like boat and weather today, does it?
No. Depends
on where you live.
Although you probably try to pull it off, man. You kind of march to the beat of your own drum. I can see you saying, let's give it a try.
Hey, as soon as ice gets off that lake, we put that thing in and we get going. So,
hey, speaking of which, that's a lot of how you play, right? I mean, I love it because one of the things that I gravitated towards you about is you only know one way, right? I mean, you typically kind of step on the gas and you let it hang. And your team plays like that. How much fun is in that you coach to your personality?
Yeah, we try to play fast. We try to play an emotion offense. We don't try to run a lot of sets where we're easy to get scouted. And you got to have the guys to do that, and it takes time. I mean, I think if you roll some guys out there that aren't real familiar with motion offense and screening and cutting and angles and everything else, it's kind of a mess. But we have a lot of times people think that we just throw the ball out there and play, pick up summer basketball, but there is kind of a method to what we do.
Coach, you said back in November that the goal is to be playing for a state championship in March. Here you are doing exactly that. What does it mean to see your team living up to the standard you set from the very beginning?
It means a lot. We've got 3 seniors now that have started. This will be their 3rd year in a state tournament game. Yeah. And obviously that helps. And these kids have put in a ton of work, and not just those 3 seniors that have started, but all 13 of our guys. This, like every other coach knows, high school basketball anymore is a 12-month deal. And you got to play in June. You got to have your teams playing, or your guys playing on summer teams. And if you don't do that, I mean, it shows up. And right now, I think you're at home, or you're at in the stands watching the tournament instead of actually playing in it.
Coach, you're so in the moment, right? Like, erase it, move on it. Joked in the car yesterday, the last time I said, hey guys, remember the last time we were on this road? We were watching Brady Hyman and Plattview. We came down with the Millikins, who we'll get to in a minute, early. This was some years ago. You guys were playing Gretna, and we ended up staying the day, and we were just kind of reminiscing about having all the boys together watching the state tournament. Do you keep mental notes? Hey, I know each team's different, but from a coaching standpoint, hey, this is how I broke the day out last time. Hey, this was the practice regimen. You've been there so much now. Do you feel like you have a good handle on how to get your team ready for mid-March?
Yeah, I think so, Damon. I mean, we don't try to change things up a whole heck of a lot. I think and one of the reasons, I mean, you've got 9 or 10 days between your district final and then your state tournament game. So to me, if you start watching film for 9 straight days, or you practice for 9 straight days, and you try to throw in a bunch of new sets, or I think you can kind of maybe put too many things in the kids' heads. So we try to keep our routine as normal as possible. We've done that, back, like you had mentioned, when the Thayers and the Hymans and that group were around. We've done it with this group. And up until last year, we haven't had a lot of success with it. But, I think that's the best way to handle that. And hopefully that works for us this year.
Yeah, Coach, this group loves the long ball. They love to shoot the three-pointer, and
yes, they do.
It's worked for at least 22 games this year. But, as you head into now a spot where it's one and done at this point moving forward, is there a backup plan if shots aren't falling?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because, I've really harped with these kids. Our first possession, we're not coming down and shooting a 30-foot jump shot, and my assistant says, you can tell them whatever the heck you want, but you know what they're going to do. So. But we're trying to, and it's a little bit different, obviously, shooting down at Pinnacle. And we've put together a schedule this year where we got to play down at Sokol Arena, and we went out to Grand Island and played out there. So we prepared a little bit for this, and it's always different, but Andrew, yeah, you're right. I mean, we can't come in today or tomorrow or Saturday, whatever, however everything falls, and jack up 33 pointers. So we've got to play to our strengths, and ball reversals, post touches, spread the floor so Milliken can get downhill, and if they collapse, then we kick, and hopefully our shooters have their hands and feet ready, and we knock down some shots.
Yeah, a lot of people know, just because you got a lot of fans that support what you guys are doing, but for those that don't, it's a pretty special relationship with the best scorer in the state and in his career, in Connor Milliken. I know you're close with the family. Connor has been extremely loyal to Plattview in that community. Are you going to take time to reflect before it's over? Have you taken time to reflect? You guys are as close as a player-coach combo as I've maybe ever seen. It's got to be a little special. And this is coming from a guy that watched your son and your daughter play with tremendous excellence at Plattview as well. He's got to be right in line.
No, he is. You know, Connor's a special kid. And as you mentioned, Damon, I mean, you know the family. I know the family. I've coached Connor's brother also. He's playing football up at Dort. Matt and Stacy are great people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's you know, it hasn't hit me yet, you know, that we've got 3 games or 1 game or 2 games left in this season. But, you know, Connor, he started coming to my camps when he was in 3rd grade, you know, would win the one-on-one awards and everything else. And, you know, Connor's changed a little bit since then. If Connor missed a bucket back in those days, you know, it was the end of the world. And if he didn't make 5 straight baskets and he went 4 for 5 or 3 for 5, you know, Connor has some issues, but he's really matured, and he's a great kid, great family, and obviously we'll miss those guys.
Yeah, glad he got his mom's personality, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Coach, we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much. Good luck today at 6.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Thanks,
That is Coach Tim Brotzki. And hey, let's go over to Kyle Jurgens now, Omaha Skutt boys basketball head coach. Coach, good morning.
Morning, guys. How you doing?
Coach, hopefully you're not going to hold it against me. We're talking to you a couple of times in a couple of weeks, but I'm going to go ahead and blame you. You just keep winning, so we keep wanting to talk to you.
It's your fault.
We'll take it. That's fine.
Hey, go ahead. Coach, you know, some would say their favorite TV show is Saved by the Bell. You guys are probably now watching Saved by the Wild Card. You know, still the 1 seed in B despite the loss to Elkhorn. We saw 1 seed go down yesterday in C1. Are you at all worried that could be you today? And how do you make sure that it's not?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, we try to take everything one game at a time, and we don't talk about Friday, or we don't talk about, you know, the next day till you take care of the one in front of you. I mean, we started this, 10 years ago, and we kind of coined it, the first one's the tough one. First one's the toughest. Second one's the most important. And if you get there, the third one's the funnest. And so, we try to preach to our kids that this one is as tough as anyone. And, you know, you ask coaches around that have been there, they'll tell you that.
Coach, there's such varying degrees of success that your program has had, but all of them typically result in a lot of wins, right? You've chased perfection. People have talked about whether you could go undefeated before in some of your runs. This one, you scheduled up. You played a tough schedule. You've been the hunted all year. Are there any ties that bind with this team in this run? Because you have to stay fresh and recharged too. How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I think playing the schedule that we did, and it's important to, you know, play those competitive games and get those. I mean, we said the sub-district final was, you know, great for us. Obviously, you know, we ended up a point short, but still having to play in those situations is good for our kids. And so, you know, we want to try to challenge them as much as we can throughout the year, and we feel like we play a pretty tough schedule. And, you know, on some of those nights we've played pretty well. Some nights, you know, not so much, but found ways to win, and sometimes came up a little bit short. So I think you got to experience it all and take the good with the bad, and hopefully they learn from all of it. You know, we kind of said that in the Elkhorn game. If it ends up the other way around, the last shot doesn't go in, then, you know, maybe we don't learn as much. Maybe we don't grow as much. And so hopefully all that together leads to, you know, playing your best down the stretch. And we bounced back pretty good from the sub-district and played well in our last one. So hopefully we can keep that momentum going.
Coach, looking to avenge last year's feat, falling 1 game short. What makes you confident in this team's ability to do just that?
Well, I mean, it starts with leadership, I think, for us. You know, the 9 seniors and guys that, you know, have been there and understand what it takes to get done. And, you know, hopefully are a little hungry from last year. But at the same time, not, you know, looking past today. And I don't think they will. I think they'll be ready to go. And we're excited to see if we can play well today.
Coach, it's going to be interesting, right? I'll get you out on this. Bennington's got a lot of guys that are used to winning in multiple sports, and I definitely think there's something to a winning mentality. You guys, good matchup though. And do you talk, or do you ever find yourself talking about another team, or is it simply you're your own benchmark? You make it about you.
No, I mean, I think it's got to be a little bit of both. We, in order for us to have success today, we have to be us and do the things that we do. But at the same time, I mean, you nailed it. They're a really good team. I think they're way better than an 8 seed. And
completely agree with you.
Probably the number one thing is they got been there, done that guys. From a football standpoint, winning state, back-to-back state titles, so they're not going to be scared. They're not going to get caught up in the moment, and it's going to be a 32-minute game, and we're going to have to play well to get it done.
Hey, how's your health, real quick, with Jake? And I know he was kind of nursing the ribs the last third of the season. You feeling pretty good about where your team is health-wise?
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing is, you got to catch a little luck too and stay healthy, and from injuries and sickness and all that stuff, especially when you got 9 days or something leading up to it. We've had in the past the kids get sick, get mono, stuff like that, and so we're pretty healthy right now, and we've went hard, but then toned it down a little bit because you kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel and go, okay, it's time to just play and see where we're at. But yeah, we're doing good, and like I said, excited for it.
Well, Coach, we wish you the best.
Coach.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
Skutt Catholic tips off at 1:30. More CNC next.
Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Can't believe it's already the top of the hour here on Coffee and Cream in the Morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency, 590 ESPN Omaha. We are on KFOR in Lincoln starting at 9 o'clock, live on Twitter, live on YouTube. Happy to have you with us and happy to have all of you interacting with us on the comment page as well. If you're looking to get involved in the show, put your thoughts there. You can give us a call, 888-638-4876. You can toss us a DM or tag us on Twitter. He's at Damon Benning. I'm at Andrew Rogers TV. We're having some fun this morning. High school basketball, kind of the topic on the mind, but there is one thing that is on Shane's mind over there first, and it's why we need to talk about Dingman's Collision Center now before we get into high school basketball talk. 4 locations throughout the metro area, along with that standalone mechanical shop at 120th and Maple. I'm convinced Shane's going to end up there, whether that's today or sometime this weekend, because something like that, all of that little, those bolts that you heard hit the pavement there, maybe it was, plexiglass pieces. Shane, your taillight basically got punched out.
Right there.
Yeah, I don't know when exactly it happened. It happened sometime over the last couple of days. I thought maybe it was at Walmart, but then I forgot I went to Menards yesterday after work. And anyway, so I don't always walk around the back of the car to just look at the car, even though I probably should because of what happened probably yesterday while I was at Menards for like 5-10 minutes.
What'd you get at Menards?
Well, if you park like Robbie, accidents can happen in the parking lot. I mean, I'm just saying.
I just got some snacks, like some potato chips and stuff like that.
You went to Menards for snacks?
It's right across the street.
Wait, though. So I've been on him about this for 10 years. 10 years. And Twitter, social media came to Shane's defense. Apparently, you and I are sleeping on Menards.
Really?
Yes. I said the exact same thing you did, and this little dude spent 10 minutes telling me about all the things that you can get at Menards for good prices. Shano?
You can get potato chips there. You can get
what brand of potato chips?
Any kind, like Lay's and all that kind of stuff, Doritos, whatever you want. I mean, the aisle's not maybe as big as like a Walmart or a Hy-Vee, but it's pretty good size for that sort of stuff. So
what is Menards? What would their identity be?
It's like hardware, lumber, right?
Yeah,
like home improvement.
Right. Yeah. So it shocks me that the grocery items that you're bringing up is what they have too. I know the store's huge. I've been in Menards before.
Twitter police will slap you down. I got crushed. Somebody told me about, gosh, this was some years ago, but yeah, they defended your guy. Shane, what are the brand of chips were they the ketchup chips? Somebody told me I need to get the ribs. I'm like, wait a minute, at Menards?
Yeah.
And he always has an episode.
Menards.
Yes. I'm like, one time he walked.
Yeah.
He lives off 120th and Dodge. He walked to Menards. He told me it took him 2 hours.
No, it took
No.
Well, it did because I had to go in there, but it was snowing. There was like 3 or 4 inches of snow on the ground, and I had to carry 2 things of antifreeze back home.
Did you not?
And I had to
for the snowstorm.
My radiator got a crack in it, and all the antifreeze went all over the garage, so I couldn't drive to Menards.
I figured you weren't going to drive anyway because it was, what'd you say, 3-4 inches of snow in your car
during a snowstorm, and I had to go across Dodge, so you have to wait for the damn lights.
Man, I feel like this is like a core memory.
Traumatized. Are the groceries cheaper, Shane?
I'm looking it up right now. Grocery at Menards.
Are they?
They're pretty good priced. I mean, they're not like like
it's not like Hy-Vee fuel saver.
You don't get like a Hy-Vee fuel saver with it, but they're relatively good priced, and a lot of times they have sales, on the different ones each week. So you can get some pretty good
what
deals.
they do have the mail-in rebate.
You have the mail-in rebate for 11% off.
I don't even.
But
wait, what?
11% off.
Yeah, that's like where you buy it online.
Yeah.
You get the rebate sent to you, and then you have to literally mail it into them to get a store credit or a gift card?
You can go to the store, you can purchase your items, you get a receipt,
Shane is the
and you
best.
can go online and you can fill out a form, and then you can have them send you a check for the 11% off.
So you don't know how the taillight broke?
So what happened was I came to work today. It was a little sketch coming in because my lights were a little dirty. So I went out there after I got in and I cleaned them off so I could be, a little bit more safe coming in and to and from work. And then when I was cleaning the back one off, I noticed that it was all smashed in and broken. And I didn't notice that. And it really looks like there was a cart that probably went into it from Menards. So somebody was not being very careful, very respective, very they didn't
They hated the color blue, or
they hated the color blue. They're like, I hate Tiburons, I hate small cars, I hate small guys that drive it.
Hey, and apparently, my man, apparently Menard's pork chops and the pulled pork is fire too.
Really?
Yeah,
because
I think we're sleeping on.
Well,
Menards.
Erica on YouTube says the cleaning aisle can't be beat. Amazing Daniel says, well, you can work on a project, and if you get hungry, they have snacks.
He may be being sarcastic. You got to watch him.
I don't know. He said they need to sell beer though, so I feel like that.
Shane, do they sell alcohol?
Thing.
I don't think they sell alcohol.
Can you before we get into high school and talk to Brian Edwards? Can you
apparently whoever was there had a bunch of alcohol and decided to run into my car with a shopping cart and break the backlight and not be respectful of it and kind of be a what's the word I'm looking for? I'm looking for
DB,
douchebag.
A Richard. Oh, yeah, that word came out twice.
Listen, you can say that once.
Shane,
everybody can say it one time.
Tell Uncle Ruru the last tackle you ever made as an adult.
And you guys on the other show ripped on me for that. I was in a Target parking lot and some.
What's up with you in parking lots?
Listen to this.
And can I use the word asshat because the guy
sure.
A guy took a cart out and he was in a big truck and he just said, you know what, I'm just gonna fling this down the lot, and it was headed right towards my car. So I ran and tackled the cart out of the way before it hit it would have hit it. I mean,
is there security footage?
I wish.
Dude, he came to work and he could barely move. And I go, Shane, what's the matter? He's like, he's doing this, and just you could tell he was sore. And I looked at him. I go, what happened? He goes, oh man, I'm just out here tackling shopping carts. That's how he said it.
That right there strikes me as something like whenever you're like, hey, watch this, like one of those moments, and Shane just goes out and tackles the cart. Hey, Shane,
I feel bad because you're still mad. Like
I am mad. You said even the way I was walking, I was mad.
Yeah, so I'm out.
He was pacing.
What? And he wouldn't put his arms down. He acted like he had like the two little. Like
he was a kid from A Christmas Story,
and he's just walking around like he's mad. What's going on? You've seen the back of my car. I was like,
you're like, oh yeah, because I look at the back of your car every single day.
But and you said something that kind of brought me back to my senses, right? You're like, I said, Shane, how are you just now seeing this? Yeah. And you go, oh, I don't look at my car every day. And I sat there and I was like, gosh, you know what? I don't either. So you don't know when it happened.
I don't know for sure. It happened either in the Walmart parking lot over the weekend, or it happened at Menards parking lot yesterday. Probably Menards.
Who's getting blamed? Menards?
Apparently, he should have got the pork chops or pulled pork. He'd have been a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, we might be sleeping on Menards. I
like
haven't been
Menards,
in a Menards in 5 or 6 years.
I picked up a TV stand 2 weeks ago, and it's huge. Menards, and you have to go all the way to the back corner.
Dude, sometimes those places, I'm not gonna lie, those places intimidate me. So I went into a Lowe's last year to get some moving boxes. Now I happened to bump into Paul Meyer, so that was great. I talked to him. He's a former bigwig down at Nebraska, so that took like Jake Meyer's dad. Yeah. So I had to get help on where the moving boxes were. Like those,
I always have to get help at a hardware store.
I'm just not good in those places. I'm not.
Can I say one other thing about it?
Absolutely, Shane. It's your show.
Okay, so
we'll start putting you in the promos.
So when you go to Menards or wherever you're going, and you're getting lumber or whatever, and you have it on your cart, and you're parked by a vehicle, watch out what the hell you're doing. That's all I ask.
PSA
and
from
then,
Shane Schillerberg.
And then if you do happen to hit somebody's car, ding it, or break a tail light,
leave a note
like you did with
Go to
if you don't feel like you need to leave a note, I hope you do feel like you accomplished something in your life there, that you kind of accomplished kind of being a jerk store or asshat or DB.
I feel bad, man. I don't like for anything to be wrong with you, man. We're gonna figure out a way to get your car fixed. All right, we'll go to 120th together.
I know it's a little stunning this morning.
Can Darcy help me?
She can help.
Hey, to give you an excuse to talk to her, you don't have to take that up with her hubby, but you can tell him it's business.
Oh, so I got to break my tail light all the time.
Hey Shane, this is your 4th taillight in 2 weeks.
Hey, easy there, because you are talking to a guy that's got 5 tires on one vehicle that he's only had for 14 months.
Fair.
Yeah, I'm still pissed about that one.
Hey, should we get into some high school talk now?
Yeah.
Change gears. Bring it back.
I still can't believe I haven't been buying my pork chops at Menards.
Can I just say one other thing?
Yeah, sure, Shane. Go ahead.
Jiminy
Christmas.
I'm kidding. I don't need to say it.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to discourage you.
I do feel deflated about it, and I do feel, I feel like, like a punch in the gut. So if you were the one that did that, thank you. I appreciate it. Have a wonderful day.
Dude, I'm telling you, we're sleeping on Menards. Nick says, my dad always says, if Menards sold beer, he wouldn't have to go anywhere else. They eat their ribs. There's another ribs one. I don't know, man. They're gonna force me to go over there. He says they eat their ribs all the time, and they're normal people. So Nick's, hey, full disclosure.
Hey, when you say you're a normal person, that makes everything better.
Shane, right on cue. Kindred spirits. Darcy says, my dad would do all his shopping at Menards if it were up to him.
Right there.
It's called pizza and Menards. That'd be it for old boy.
Out of breath, Brian says, was Schillerberg kicked out of the parking lot for targeting?
I'm serious. He was hurt. Like, I was genuine. You know me. Like if something's wrong with you, I'm trying to help, man. And he could barely move. And when you just tell me that you tackled a shopping cart with no context, I was in tears, but I was in tears. You know what I mean?
You're not thinking.
What's the shopping cart?
You're not.
Was it empty?
It was empty. But you're not thinking about it.
I said, hey, did you run the feed? Did you keep your near foot, near shoulder? Like, he's looking at me like you.
You're not thinking about it, like, wow, that shopping cart is actually big and it's, made of plastic. And it's
Shane, when you made the play, what were you mumbling under your breath when you stood up?
Well, you dropped an MFer on the guy, didn't you?
He was in his truck and was out, but I probably did. I'm sure, he peeled out and just left.
Shane lobbing the bird with his little Vienna sausages. Did you double bird him? You guys like to do that.
Yeah, I might have.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so what we just learned here is take your car to Dingman's whenever you have car issues, and go to Menards if you need pork.
You know what? I'm gonna stroll.
You know what?
Just for because I just want to know. Now I feel like
I'm there for an hour.
Oh, I don't have the temperament. No way. I jog in Costco.
You'll lose yourself. Not Eminem style in there, but it's like walking through IKEA.
So I know
except you know where the exit is. And
I
you
know
can go
two of the guys
backwards.
over here now at Costco. They're like, I feel like Denzel on Equalizer. He looks at his clock before his watch before he.
Sometimes he starts it,
and so the guy goes, "How long we aiming for today?" 31 minutes. Anyway.
So you're going to Pinnacle Bank again today.
I am.
And you'll stop at Menards for snacks.
Got to clean out a freezer and drop off a few things, but yeah. And be back in time. We got an 8th grade open house tonight too, so it'll be a long day.
It always seems like that though when high school state basketball rolls around because you have so many games to fit into one day, and then it's back to back, right? It's not just it's one slate of games and then you move forward. You have this slate and then you have that slate and then you have, now it's the semifinals for everybody. And then, the finals. And, to some degree, I sat back and thought last night, man, it's hard to keep track of both games at the same time. But then I thought, man, do you ever save time even watching state from Wednesday to Saturday? And the answer is no, because no matter what, whether you're watching one game or two games at the early goings on, whether it's two monitors or whatever, by the time you're watching the state final, you're watching the full length of that game. So it's, when you mentioned having a long day, it's a long day from Wednesday to Saturday.
It is. And can you imagine the old format of playing 3-3 as opposed to now 3-4? Because at least, you'll get the day off in between, but it's a grind. And breaking news, Shane Coach Woodard has, as he typically does, has released his lines.
Let's get into it.
Caesars Palace, Las Vegas, 3:10 Class A Boys State semifinals.
Crazy that Las Vegas has these lines.
Yeah, he's hilarious. It's a great Twitter account. Although it's a little pro Bellevue West, obviously, with Fo Woodard, but he has made Bellevue West a 5.5-point favorite total. This is such a degenerate. 137.5. Miller North Gretna is a pick'em.
Wow.
With a total of 114.5.
I would take the under in that game.
Which one?
Millard North, Gretna. I think Gretna defends really well.
They do.
And they don't score a lot of points, and I think they'll be able to hold Millard North.
That's 57 apiece. That seems about right.
Mm-hmm.
It's about where they play.
Yeah.
Because I think they're 1-1.
If I remember watching their game last night, it was like 35 all with, 2 minutes to go in the third?
Yeah.
So I'd take the under in that game. Now,
Bellevue West has beaten Westside twice by an average of about 25 points.
Yeah, but Bellevue West hasn't seen this Westside team, and I'm not here to hype up Westside just because I'm sitting next to DB. But after watching Westside down in Grand Island and then consistently watching them week after week from that point, I don't know if there is another team in Class A that can beat Bellevue West outside of Westside.
I would agree, but it's about matchup. So it's funny because I'm actually with you. And I think quietly, I've told Padilla and Sauter this all year. And this was before Caleb got ready because, he missed however many of the first week. And I said, hey, they're going to be better later. Ricky Lofton will be back from his ACL. Like, I thought that they would be much better later, but I've always thought Westside has the ability to go small, which limits how much Garcia and a rope can do, right? So it kind of neutralizes their depth a little bit. But as we watched yesterday, when Bellevue West goes small, so they've adjusted too. They can play a couple of different ways. But I think in Millard North, I think their staff would agree. Westside, Millard North and Westside, you're playing to Westside strengths, which is why they hammered, I think, Millard North, just because it's always about styles. But conversely, you know who Westside does not match up well with? Gretna. Gretna owns Westside the last couple of years, and they haven't been real close. So it's just weird how it's about matchups. I think they do prefer to play Bellevue West, but I think these, and it's a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 5. I do think that these are the best 4 teams in the state. I've thought that all year, and I think I would see them exactly how the numbers are, except I would move the 5 to a 4 because there's only 4 teams left. Bellevue West, the clear number 1. You could convince me that Gretna should be seated ahead of Millard North. I wouldn't fight you over that, just like I wouldn't say Millard North is ahead. I trust Gretna more, but Millard North has pretty good upside when they're going. So it's unfortunately, I think his lines are about right. Kind of feel like a degenerate.
When you watched the Bellevue West game yesterday, I'm not exact when I say this. I don't know for exact if they went 8 deep, but I believe they went 8 deep into their 8 deep total in the game, 3 deep on their bench. But I wanted to ask you this because we were talking about this a little bit yesterday on how Bellevue West from the very beginning this year was being talked about as, hey, they have 5 guys that can come in and just remove the starting 5 off the floor. They have a really deep bench. And if they rested around 8, do you think that was expected for you? Do you think that was higher than you projected them to at this point? Or do you think that it wasn't as deep as you thought they could go?
I never thought it was as deep, especially when McMorris Isaiah didn't start out by playing basketball. You know, he came back, whatever the reason. I don't want to speak on what I don't know about, but so without him early, I was like, but they still could go 8. Listen, I watched them. They decided to go. They had to go small against us a couple of weeks ago, and they seem to be just fine. So I think they can play a couple of different ways, because it's like Coach Simons always says, and Coach Mack was the first one to tell me this about 5-6 years ago. He's like, they got to guard us too, right? So sometimes, because that was during a stretch. Remember when Creighton first started in the Big East, it was this rebound disparity that they had to overcome, right? You got to rebound the ball better, got bigger, stronger, whatever. And Mac's like, a little give and take here. They got to guard us too. So, I think 8's about right, and they can do it. Now, way back when, and this was not a good West Side team, but I think that game was like 47-12 or 47-16 at the half or something like that during holiday tournaments. It was a different kind of Bellevue West team. Garcia got off to the really good start, and he was kind of a tough matchup because he was making threes. Now, statistically, if you remove that game, I think he's now shooting in like the mid-20s from 3. Arope is still not where I think he wants to be in terms of his fitness and kind of his health. He had a knee injury a couple weeks ago, but they've had some other guys emerge. I mean, Eldon Turner's a stud. I've always liked him. Polacek is a big shot maker. He helps them. Stuvie has one of the best mid-range games, I think, in the Metro, and he's confident. You already have the best player in the state in Dotzler, and Jaden Jackson is arguably the best shooter. So, I mean, and the thing,
all 5 can ball.
The thing about Jaden Jackson is a lot like Maya Babbitt at Millard South in the girls' game.
Right.
It doesn't matter kind of where their feet are, as long as they get they're
in shooting position,
they're going to get a shot. They're going to get.
It comes down to being comfortable.
They're going to get a shot off, and I think it's a total hand down, man down with Jaden Jackson, and they kind of went through the motions yesterday, and still now North Star's
man down.
North Star's a handful, especially defensively. I remember I said that game had to be in the 50s for them to win. They couldn't allow it to get going, but they can defend. It's just a lot. I'm still floored, and we watched it on the big screen yesterday at the egg that Wahoo laid.
Man,
remember we were talking about contrasting styles, and
yeah,
I mean, and then you saw it all on social media, right? It was Binder, Death Taxes, and Jim Weeks in March basketball, right? Because there's been about 34 Binders. They're all good. Coach Weeks has been consistent, and he just wins in the postseason. That was the 1-1 seed that I felt the least
comfortable about,
but I still thought that they would find a way to score.
Yeah,
they couldn't make free throws.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, that Auburn team as an 8 seed with all that tournament experience, that seed doesn't matter. It's kind of like what you were talking about with Bennington.
Yeah, listen,
the seed doesn't matter.
Those guys, they have winners. Bird, although they're used to winning. It'll be a good day.
I want to add one more thing to this high school conversation. We'll do that next. Stick around. It's Coffee and Cream.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hale Varsity Radio.
Hey, welcome back. It's Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hale Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. I'm still digging through all the comments coming our way about Menards.
Told you. It just apparently we're not doing it right.
Well, you know, I think Amazing Daniel put it perfectly later on in these comments. He said, honestly, I would never go to Menards for that stuff. It's just really convenient when you're spending the day fixing the fence or building a deck or whatever.
Or you live right beside it.
I'll tell you what,
or you want to have your, or you want to have your tail light, or you want to live your,
you know, that's crazy that you say that
out.
because like, even if I lived across the street from Menards and there was a family fair or other grocery store 10 minutes down the road, not 10, we'll say 5 minutes down the road, I would still go there before I went to Menards.
Yeah.
It's just weird. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm so set in my ways. Like, hey, if I'm getting groceries, I'm going to the grocery store.
I have an incentive for you.
Go.
Your favorite St. Louis Cardinal second baseman of all time was Tommy Hurd, right?
You got it. Nailed it right on the head. Not
Well,
Fernando Vina.
Well, they have Hers brand chips. Apparently, the jalapeno poppers are to die
Are the ones
for.
to go for, and then maybe pair it with a cherry cola, a Sprecher, as Jeff Hazard says on YouTube. A Sprecher. I've never heard of Sprecher.
So do you realize when enough people tell you something that you or I are not aware of, we're probably in the wrong?
Oh, I know I'm in the wrong.
Apparently.
If 30 people came here and said, go to Menards.
Do you want to go to Menards with me? Because apparently I'm not very smart.
Yeah, we're going on to Menards State.
Like,
that way we can keep ourselves
behind.
honest. Instead of going off our watch, we can just be like, hey, DB, I think it's time. I think it's time to bounce.
I feel like there's an endorsement coming, man. As much love as they've been.
You know what? We'll have to get our sales team on that. Speaking of getting onto something, and
teams,
you know, whether it's teams or whether it's, hey, you know, we're doing it wrong. How about the Alec Noonan support? That I'm not saying we weren't on that train, because Alec Noonan is an all-state player.
No question.
No question. But you need to get it, like we need to go to Menards. You need to get on the Alec Noonan bus, because even though Elkhorn South didn't move on, the fight that they put up just to stay relevant in that game, they were down 17 at halftime. And at one point it was like 26 in that first half.
Do you remember after Elkhorn South played Westside, the morning after, or the next show, because I don't remember if that was on a Friday, I had to, and it sometimes drives Caleb crazy, except if it's a few select guys. Noonan, he has no problems with. Because after the game at Westside, I walked over to Noonan and I go, hey, man. So I love the way that you play. He doesn't talk. He doesn't say anything. He looked at me and he's like, man, you know, your son's a dog, this, that, and the other. He's hard. You know, he guards. And I said, you just kept coming.
Talent respects talent.
Listen, so I think he was, you know, I don't remember exactly. I think Warner was the guy that we really couldn't stop. I think he had 4 or 5 threes against us, but Noonan had like 18 points on like 16 or 7. He just kept working, right? He never talked. And so I was asking Caleb in the car, I was like, and sometimes I think he's just biased because he knows I like the family, but he's usually a straight shooter. And he's like, no, you know, he's a real one. Like, he doesn't talk, he competes, he just keeps coming. And I put out on Twitter, and I don't do it a ton, every now and again, like when something really catches my eye. And I tweeted at him after the game. I was like, hey, man, a lot of respect. It is a joy watching you play, because he's one of those guys. And I said it early, and Midland is everywhere. They recruit their ass off. Their staff, they're always at games. I see them in the summer. You know, like they're present, kind of like how I felt about Wayne State football, who I saw at PBA just watching basketball, not recruiting, just watching basketball, right? Like those staffs that are just everywhere all the time. And at the time, I'm like, they're kind of getting a steal. And Midland is pumped, but I don't know, man. Just watch him. Watch him move without the ball. He's learned to play a lot of different ways. It's exactly how I feel about Carter Mick, who you watch him yesterday.
Good comp.
So I finally moved. I was walking around. I finally went and sat. I used my media seat, which I almost never do, especially if Westside's playing. I just don't go out on the floor. But I wanted to talk to Padilla, and that's when Chuck Johnston was to my right. And we were just talking about Carter Mick for a while, and you watch him play. He single-handedly, it's 30-point win, but you just watched him play and how hard he plays. Again, another guy I put my arm around after the game, and these guys probably think I'm crazy because they don't really know me, but I just watch these guys play, and it's like, you know, Carter Mick's a dude. He competes, and I was talking to his dad, who's so humble, right? I mean, he was good in his own right. I was talking to him after the game, and he said something I couldn't believe. And this is total humility. Like his dad, you mean his dad, he's pretty meek, right? He said, he really wants to play basketball. He plays baseball because he's just a good pitcher.
Really good.
I'm like, I don't know what the look was on my face listening to him, but I'm like, I think baseball is the hardest of the true skilled team sports. I've said this forever. It is a difficult sport to be good at. Most people don't want to get in front of balls. You're on offense without the ball. There's just lots of things that are working against you. How would you like to be that good? And he is legit. And you do it because you can.
I know.
I just was like, really?
I would never know that feeling because like I was never that good at something, and that because I could do it, I did it. Like I could do a lot of things, but it wasn't what you set the precedent there was. How about you are really good at something, but you do it because you can. I was never really good at something and could do it. No, I could just do it.
And I must have had like this dumb, typical DB look. Like, did you really just say that?
Well, because you're thinking, oh, it's baseball
because of the reverence I have for the sport.
Same,
right? It's like it's my favorite. And he goes, come on. He goes, Caleb's doing the same thing with basketball. And I go, no, he works at it. He has to work at it. Like, he doesn't just get out of the rack.
You don't just become a really good ball
player overnight. It's like, it's just some of these guys that I'm watching. The binders and the clocks, and it's just a good stretch because Templemeyer, he's a good player. Like they struggled yesterday, and listen, Westside wasn't going to go 0-15 from 3 again, but it's just hard to win at this time of the year. How about, North Star got that thing as close to 7, I think, yesterday, and I was like, can they score enough? And every time, either a slip on a back cut, a loose ball scramble putback, Turner would get in the paint, Dotzler would make a play. It was just like, sometimes I think because it's not the super high end that we've been used to the last couple of years in terms of high end talent, we lose sight of the fact like guys just simply making plays in crunch time. But the Carter mix, the Alec Noonans, if he's and I asked Caleb, I said, and because it's what he said about Carter too. He goes, Dad, yeah, we chopped it up a little bit at the end of the game, and he goes, I like him, because I always try to balance. My job is I have to be objective. If somebody else has a good player, or I think somebody else is the best player in the state, or what, and sometimes they could be playing with or against Caleb, and it doesn't matter, right? But he's still my son, so. You talk about other players, and he's like, he's like with Carter, it's like it's no big deal. He's a real one. And so he's very stingy with stuff like that. Same thing he said about Alec Newton. And I said, are you sure it's not just because of me and Danny and the Nebraska thing and Maverick? And he's like, Dad, who's your son? Yeah, okay, bud. Like Tyson Terry.
Little bit.
Tyson Terry. He knows how I feel about Tyson Terry. Tyson Terry is one of his besties, right? I'd rather be right than well liked. So there's going to be times that I talk a lot about other people's kids, and I always wonder about that balance. But I think it's okay because I just feel validated sometimes because look at how they play, and we're all in on. That was that performance is going to be forgotten about because it was in the quarters. But go back and look at his shooting statistics.
Oh, I don't have to. I watched it.
Yeah. He just keeps coming. A lot like Connor Milliken. Noonan's fitness is elite.
Oh, yeah. Conditioning goes so far in this sport.
It's 70% of it.
Brian Edwards up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Now, Vegas Insider, senior handicapper, and fan of the cold Budweiser bottles, Brian Edwards.
It's got to be touchdown, touchdown, touchdown.
Brian Edwards.
I don't really love it.
Brian Edwards.
Were they using the cream cheese to butter the bagel?
Brian Edwards.
I'm going with the cowgirl.
Here is Brian Edwards.
Brian Edwards up now here on Coffee and Cream in the Morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. One of our favorite segments because we get to talk a little sports betting, maybe make a little money for all of you out there. Brian Edwards here on the show via StreamYard if you're watching on YouTube or Twitter. Brian, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. What's happening?
Hey, all good things here. I've busy week right now with high school basketball. And we went through some fake betting lines earlier in the show, but now let's go through some real betting lines.
Full disclosure, AR he's such a diplomat. I've got a good buddy. A pretend high school coach that has a Twitter account that sets high school lines. Brian, we're not being those guys. We're just talking about those guys.
Good explanation.
Just in case.
It's
cool.
Whenever ESPN, or I guess more like ESPN2 and you, started showing high school games on Friday night, was it for the first time during COVID, maybe in 2020 or whenever? One of my accounts would offer lines on those high school. I wouldn't bet them because I wouldn't know anything about these high schools, but I swear they were available. I found that wild.
Oh man!
As Matt Roll would say, availability is the best ability.
Yeah, I agree with him. Hey, B, real quick before we get into the actual games, is capping more difficult when you have to factor in volume in a short amount of days? Does it change the way that you've looked at these teams throughout the season?
I'm on Miami today, and I looked at the box score from Wake last night, and Tyree Appleby played all 40 minutes, and they lost their second leading scorer, Monsanto, 2 weeks ago to a season-ending injury. So their other starters played 38, 37, and I think 33 and 33 minutes. And I mentioned that in my write-up, but I mean, that's just gravy. I was just adding that on. Now, if we get whoever plays Tennessee today, if they win, they will be playing 3 times in 3 days tomorrow against Missouri when Missouri had a double bye. Does that factor in? Oh, yes. Today, with just one game, maybe not as much. But I mean, I did put it in my write-up about Miami because Wake's guys played a lot of minutes yesterday. But
Brian, let's get into these picks now, because the first one on the docket that you sent our way was a matchup that really intrigued me. It was Michigan against Rutgers, because Michigan is that team on the bubble right now, could get in, may not get in, didn't really match season expectations, -2.5. You are taking Michigan. Is that because you think just historically they're a tournament team and they know how to win at this stage?
And look, they lost back-to-back games last week, but they lost in double overtime at Illinois and in overtime to Indiana. They've covered 5 straight, 3 outright wins. They're 8-2 against the spread in their last 10. They only won 6 of those outright, but I mentioned the overtime losses last week, and their other losses here recently were a close one at Wisconsin and another 1-point or a 1-point loss instead of the 2-point loss to Indiana in OT. They also lost to them at home by 1. So, the 5-point loss at Wisconsin is the widest margin of their L's lately. And on the flip side, Rutgers has lost 6 of 8 and has won 6-1 ATS. And their 2 wins in the last 8 games, they scored 58 and won by 1 at Wisconsin. They scored 59 and won by 3 at Penn State. So Rutgers just can't buy a bucket. And they've been so great at the rack all year. But Michigan went in there on February 23rd and won 58 till 45. So not only am I taking Michigan minus, actually I got it at 3, but it was at 2 at Circa a couple hours ago, and it was 2.5 at most books. I also took a little bit, only 20% of my amount I've got on Michigan for the game on them in the first half, -1.5. And then I also did Rutgers team total under 65.5, because they've only scored more than 61 twice in 9 games. So yeah, I'm either going to get off to a really good day with Michigan, a really good start to the day at noon Eastern, or a really bad start, one or the other.
B, I know. So we joke all the time. We actually talked about them last week in terms of Tulsa. I know sometimes people laugh when you talk auto fades, but we've talked to you almost 10 years, and that is a thing for you where you'll look at teams that are trending or things that are moving in the wrong direction. It was Jacksonville for a while. I think that's how you built that nice palatial estate you've got down there. You've got an auto fade today with Wichita State. Not so much about the Shockers as much as it is about Tulsa.
Yeah, I wrote more than 200 words in my write-up. I never mentioned Wichita State once. It was just all about Tulsa. And again, I said it last week with you guys. I was late to the party, but it's been a good party since I got on there. They're 4-23-2 against the spread for the year, and they're just absolutely awful. And their leading scorer's been out 4 straight games. Now, I did a Twitter search on him this morning. There's no information. Nobody's tweeted about him since March 1st. I guess they've given up on coverage of this team, which I can understand. But it's the last chance to fade them. So I'm in. They've lost 11 in a row, 10 by double-digit margins. It looks like a huge number. And Wichita State didn't beat them that handily. They lost. I mean, they beat them by less than this amount. In fact, one win was by single digits, but they were up by 19 at halftime the last time they played them. So I'm going to go Wichita State minus 15 or 15.5. And then I also took them minus 9.5 in the first half.
Is K-State a value pick at +2?
You know, I like K-State tonight, but I like K-State like every week. I mean, I think they've been badly the odds makers have not set good lines on them all year. Now, I got beat several times playing them on the road when I probably shouldn't have. And these teams split in the regular season. They both blew each other out on their home. The home team got the blowout win. But I just think K-State's better. And I no need for a bunch of cute stats. I think Noel and Keontae lead K-State to outright win.
A rare total of the play for today, 130.5 in the SEC with your Gators and Mississippi State.
Yeah, so the over's on an 8-1 run for Florida in its last 9. Its last 8 games have had 143 combined or more. Its last 9 have had 139 combined or more, which is, obviously a good bit higher than today's total. Mississippi State has had a lot lower totals than Florida, but their overs are 6-1 in their last 7, and each of them each of the overs, 6 of them had at least 130. The Gators just don't have any rim protection without Castleton, who was 4th in the nation in block shots. And offensively, they're shooting a lot more threes without him, and it's resulted in more points. So let's go with the over.
Brian, last one here. A line of -6, Miami, Wake Forest. Wake Forest picking up that win yesterday over Syracuse. More of a surprise probably than most would think after Syracuse actually got the dub the Saturday prior. But Miami -6 seems like a nice play here because you take a Wake Forest team that doesn't have everything in their legs going into this matchup, and Miami has just been a team that has been tough to play against, especially late in the season.
Yeah, so Miami's won 8 of 9, and the only loss in that stretch, Nigel Pack did not play. He averages 13.4 points, shoots threes at a 40.6% clip, and even without him, they were up by 25 on FSU. Just I don't know what happened there in the second half. I wasn't watching. I couldn't believe it when I saw the highlight. FSU'd won outright. I didn't have anything on it, fortunately, but I mentioned Damari Monsanto is out for Wake, averaged 13.3 points per game. Miami beat them by 9 during the regular season. Granted, that was at home. This is neutral. But I think the Canes take care of business. Unless my guy Tyree goes off for like 30 points and 10 assists, Miami should cover this.
Be the top 6 or 7 conferences. We don't say Power 5 typically in basketball. So I want to, but of those top 6, 7 conferences, is the Big 12 the toughest to cap? I'm just throwing this out there. I'm looking at Iowa State and Baylor. It seems low. It seems a little light. I think Baylor's 3.5 now. I think it opened at 4.5. Is that just a tough league to cap? Because I think neutral site may convolute things too a little bit.
So I had Baylor in a money line parlay last week, and I had them. They were at home to Iowa State, and then they fell behind double digits. And I made a couple of in-game bets, like Baylor, like plus 190 money line, like plus 5.5 in-game.
You.
But no, it didn't work out though. Iowa State ended up winning by double digits. So that performance was so off on Baylor's part for me that I'm staying away. But yeah, I'm like you. I think Baylor's the play, but I just watched Iowa State kick their ass less than a week ago. So because of that, it's a pass for me.
Brian Edwards, you're the best, man. We appreciate it. Thanks so much for your advice. We will talk again next week.
B, you're my man. Appreciate you.
Thanks, fellas. Y'all have a great week.
Hey, by the way, real quick, B.
I know you're gonna say something about John Jones.
Bam! See?
Yeah. So I don't like him, but I did have him last week.
He knows, man. We've been doing this for years. You know, and I know you stole all that money taking Jones, even though you don't like him. My favorite thing about you, you don't discriminate. You like money.
My man.
That fist bump was probably the most realistic.
How did he know I was going to say that, though?
Because
I knew exactly where you were going.
That's how I know I'm playing all of his picks.
You're the man, B.
Thanks,
right,
Brian. Michael Bruntz up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Crazy things happen at home. Everybody is ready to stand. They need a quick catch and shoot. They got it to Tom.
That close. A Casey Tominaga half-court heave. How Nebraska would that have been for that to go in?
Man, he
That would have
got
been total
two
Nebraska
great
this year.
looks at it, too. And if he hits the little scoop-de-doop lefty falling to the floor that sat on the back
you
of the
talked
rim.
about Gumpy
and-
relating to certain high school
Oh, yeah, Carter Mick.
players. Like somebody that can make acrobatic shots. That's Casey.
Yeah. And it weird. The two clean looks are the ones that he didn't get. Fudge.
It was one of those nights last night for the Huskers. And Michael Bruntz was following along with that. Senior writer for Husker 24/7 at Michael Bruntz on Twitter. Michael, for starters, good morning.
How's it going, guys?
Hi, Mike. How are you?
He feels that way because
all
we
right.
heard you're going on vacation next week.
So full disclosure, I wanted to just say Mike because people always say Michael Bruntz, Bruntzy, Bruntz. No one says Mike. I just wanted to see how he would react. What do you prefer?
That was well, I think everybody just goes with the last name usually.
I know. I feel like everybody's in education, right? Like teachers, all they ever use is last names. Hey, did you talk? Did you talk to Dostal? He's a doctor. That would be Dr. Dostal. Like, what do you mean? Like, don't teachers do that, Brunsey? As I use his last name.
Yeah, they do. I nobody uses the full first name. That's usually like
when you're
like I'm in
reprimanding.
trouble. Yeah, like my mom's mad at me or something when I'm a kid.
What's your middle name?
That's when I get the full Alan.
Michael Allen.
Oh, that's a
Bruntz.
good
All right.
WASP name.
Now entering my notes.
So okay. So I know we say Shafe. What we say BC? Do you say BC or do you? Nobody calls him Brian. Like, what do you call BC?
I call him BC.
Yeah. See, it's just weird.
Well, you're just a big nickname guy too.
If I like you, if I don't, you're just your name.
Oh, you're.
Hey Tim.
Well, Shaney hates you.
Hey, Brunsey, I know, like, a couple of games removed from San Diego doesn't cure all ails, right? Vandy was huge, but are you slapping our wrist as media and kind of fans for overreacting to the first weekend, or you're like, hey, knock it off? You can't hit 16,000 batters, even though you still lead baseball in hit batters in one weekend and be okay with that. Like, where are you with balance?
I don't know. I think a general good rule of thumb in life is to not make sweeping projections about baseball teams based on the first weekend. Like, yeah, I mean, you can't hit
That's safe.
You can't hit 16. You can't hit 16 guys in put 30 guys on base with free pass in a week. Don't get me wrong. That's, you can kind of be concerned about teams, especially when you're playing warm weather teams that first weekend with so much that goes on. There's a guy that played baseball at North Dakota State, and they used to have to walk around in their family rooms with cleats on to break them in. Like that's just the challenges that northern teams have versus like a San Diego. But yeah, I mean, this team, this Northern Colorado is not going to make the NCAA tournament. I feel safe saying that. But man, this lineup is kind of fun to watch him get after opponents.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I remember correctly, the first time we talked, I was unsure about the actual depth of this team. I felt the turnover rate from year to year didn't quite reassure me that there was solidified depth or at least just say solid depth. But, that was put to shame just based on everything that you just said, watching guys come off the bench and just hit nukes in cold weather specifically. How impactful do you think the offense, or how impactful do you think the depth will be for this offense going forward?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how the staff built it. And, the thing that they can do this year that they certainly couldn't last year, and I don't know that they've been able to do it at any point in Will Bolt's tenure. I mean, they can really play matchup pretty well against opposing pitchers. I mean, they, up in Minnesota, ran out, an almost all right-handed lineup against Vanderbilt, and we're fine. And, yesterday you have, Garrett England's dealing with the hamstring, and that's a big loss until they can get him back. But they throw Cole Evans in there. He hits 2 home runs. Charlie Fisher plays first base, even though he's been primarily an outfielder at other spots. That they can really kind of mix and match. And I think that's a good thing, because you're going to have injuries. You're going to have guys going through slumps. And, really the problem for them right now is they really just don't have enough spots on that lineup for the number of guys that they have that they feel can hit. I mean, Efrain Cervantes had, the best fall and spring preseason of his career, and he's barely getting into the lineup. Same with Griffin Everett. And
I was going to say that about Everett. Great call.
Yeah. I mean, he hits a 3-run homer yesterday, and, he's probably the, third catcher right now, and maybe the second or third DH. So they've got a lot of depth. And I mean, Gabe Swanson, who's a former walk-on, hits a 442-foot home run to dead center on a 33-degree day. Like that you don't see that very often.
So, and you know what's subtle about that? That's why I like talking to you, because you kind of get in the weeds a little bit. So he made some key substitutions. By he, I mean Bolt, especially going back to the weekend in Minnesota, right? You're asking guys, you're talking about outfield position plays, balls that were actually caught, coaching decisions where you insert guys, not just offensively where we can see it like real time, but even defensively, it's helped Nebraska. So if I'm Coach Bolt and this staff, how constant am I telling, how often am I telling guys, hey, listen, stay ready. You never know. We're pretty flexible. Doesn't mean we don't know what we're doing. Just you have to trust us. Will what they had to do in the offseason with the chemistry and the team building, that could come to fruition all year, right?
Well, and the thing you hit on there, I mean, it's a veteran team. It's a team of old guys, and that was the idea in the offseason was, look, we need to get older via the transfer portal. They added, Casey Burnham, who's been great in center field. Charlie Fisher, has played a ton of college baseball down at Southern Miss. Those guys get it. They understand that you're, might not be in the lineup every day, but, they've been around enough to see kind of the approach you have to have. And, they added some junior college guys too. Cole Evans is a JUCO guy. He was at Creighton too for a little bit. Ben Columbus was a JUCO guy. I mean, I think when you have that kind of experience on your roster, you don't have as much of the shoulder hanging and guys getting disappointed when their name's not in the lineup on a particular day. And it helps too. I mean, when you get into the part of the season where you're, playing 5 games in 6 days and you got the midweeks and stuff like that, I mean, that kind of keeps guys engaged too. But the lineup kind of turnover that they've made from last season, I think has kind of been the story of the young season so far. And we'll see if they can kind of figure out the pitching roles, because I think that's still kind of some questions that need to be answered there too.
Keep it right there. The offense is there, but how would you grade the pitching over the first 12 games?
It's been up and down. I mean, I think you really have to like what you have in your Friday and Saturday night guys in Olsen and Kamienska. I mean, I think both of those guys are always going to give you a chance. I mean, they're going to go 5, maybe more, and give that offense a little bit of time to work. And when you get into Big Ten play, that's really kind of all you can ask for. We'll see what they do with Sunday. Caleb Clark, the freshman from Canada, had been the Sunday guy. and I think they're still working on some things with them, with the release and that kind of stuff. And, do they go with Michael Garza on Sunday? Do they, does Jackson Brockett earn that spot? We'll kind of see. I mean, I don't think that they really have an answer there. And it's not, in the bullpen, I don't think it's really defined roles right now. I mean, Shea Shanneman was probably the closer to start the year, and now he's probably going to be the first guy out of the bullpen on Fridays. Kyle Perry, probably somewhere in that mix too. And, you're going to need some guys to step up that have kind of been inconsistent so far this season. So the bullpen piece of it's huge because, I mean, there's nothing worse in baseball than having to protect like a 1-run lead and you just have no idea what you're going to get coming out of that bullpen. I mean, that's a good way to start getting ulcers.
What would you do with Clark? What would you do with Clarkie?
I don't know. I mean, he looked good yesterday. I mean, it was he had to come in there and kind of put out the fire a little bit and then, threw pretty easy. I mean, I think yesterday you saw what the coaching staff's seen from him so far in the fall and why they're so high on him. They still are. But, I think, maybe you give him one more shot at home on Sunday. I mean, they've got Illinois State coming in. So not a high pressure situation there, but, I think the staff, the easy move would probably be like, okay, we're going to go put Garza in on Sundays, but I think they see more value in him out of the bullpen as a guy that can throw, 3 or 4 innings if you have to, versus, having him start on Sundays. So I would probably give Clark one more go. And if, it's just not looking right, I mean, maybe he's your Tuesday night guy and you run him out there against Creighton and Omaha and those types of teams once you really start playing those games here in a couple weeks.
All right, spin the wheel for the next question. Would you like to talk the prowess and towards start of Mad Max, or do you want to talk midweek scheduling and how important those games will be?
Let's talk scheduling. Let's really get in the weeds here.
Let's go.
So listen, you don't talk to a ton of smart guys that often. Let's maximize. So Bruntz, with Nebraska's schedule, and I know you're gonna be like, DB, what in the world are you doing fast forwarding? You hate schedule talk. But with degree of difficulty and how baseball still looks a ton at RPI, is this a team that you think, because of their versatility and depth, won't allow those midweek kind of innocuous kind of games get away from them to go on runs to kind of build a win-loss record?
I think they have the offense to go out and really get after the midweek pitching. The question in those games a lot of times is, do you have somebody who can go into a Tuesday night game and, go 4 or 5 innings? Because it's so hard to hand off pass the bucket and do the Johnny Allstaff midweek games. And
pass the bucket. It is $1 off hot chocolate, I think, versus Omaha.
It is.
That's a good deal.
Well, all about that warmth.
They've got like the old school bucket with the ladle. I think
Pass
they just
the
like
bucket,
like the boxing bucket. So yeah, I mean, if they can get the pitching thing figured out, yeah, I think they've got a chance to do it. That's always, you sometimes don't know what you're going to get from guys, but if you can have somebody, and it's worked in the past, where if you find somebody that's a little bit younger, like a Clark, I think they'd probably love it to be like a Drew Christo, but that can go in and give you 3 or 4 innings on Tuesday night and get you off to a good start. I think they have the offense to do it. It's some of those games are tough. I mean, it's depending on your opponent in those midweeks, it's almost kind of better sometimes if for RPI purposes, if those games get rained out than actually played.
Michael, knowing a lot of guys that played the sport, we're talking about, not only just midweek games, but games in Nebraska where the weather is never nice to you. Knowing a lot of just players, but not just here, but, everywhere in the Midwest, they always have like that drink in the dugout that keeps them warm. right? And like whether it's like hot chocolate, like DB brought up, or I even knew somebody that had like warm cider in the dugout. Yeah, I mean, chicken broth gets thrown around sometimes, and if it were you, like, what would you be drinking in the dugout?
Come on, it's Bruntzy.
Oh, coffee.
Yeah,
black coffee.
I was about to say, man, that is old reliable for the smart guy, man. It's
you need the old like 96 ounce like Trucker's Choice like to go mug and just leave it in there in the dugout. That's all you need.
Listen, so I got to get back to Mad Max here, Bruntzy, because I hate hyperbole, but I do love the sport, and I do appreciate when guys just go out on the beach with their tool and they just rake, right? Like they just get all the leaves out of the yard. When you look at what he's capable of doing, he looks a lot more fit too. Like, he has that frame where you're always like, ooh. But no, I think we can say that, right? I mean, we're all adults here.
He does not have the prototypical second baseman frame, I think is the way to say it.
See? Again, that's why I defer to the experts. But the way he sees a ball and knows where the ball is relative to what he can handle, where do you quantify his prowess at the plate?
Oh, I mean, he's a high level hitter. I mean, there's no question about that. And, it's when he's not out on his front foot and he's using the whole field, and that's what he's doing right now. I mean, even bad pitches, I mean, he's shooting it between the hole and between first and second, with ease. And, it's funny, you go back to last year and it felt like, man, like he just had like a really bad year based on kind of what expectations were. But I mean, he hit 300 with 10 home runs, and, it was a pretty, good year overall for most people, but it just didn't feel that way with him. And, he went and hit in the Cape Cod League. He's hit everywhere he's ever been. And, I just think, the thing for him too this year, it seems like he's not pressing as much. He seems a little bit more relaxed when he's been around the media. And I mean, yesterday, I think he got retired his first two at bats, and you're kind of looking around like, what's going on here? Did that just happen? Like, he's just on that kind of a start. So, he's an elite hitter. And I think, the start to this season, you're really kind of seeing, the power. You're seeing just the like I said, just the ability to hit bad pitches and put him in good spots. And he's been really just great to start the season. There's really no better way to put it.
Mike Allen Bruntz, senior writer for Husker 24/7, is who we're talking to at Michael Bruntz on
just
Twitter.
Go full government.
Wait, what? What did I do? Hey, you have such a good range. I want to take advantage here and ask you about something that's been on my mind, and I know on a lot of Husker fans' minds. Is Dylan Raiola still the top priority for Nebraska at this point? Or is there someone else on the list you believe they'll shift their effort to, seeing that his interest has swung USC's direction?
Maybe.
You mean at quarterback or just overall?
We'll go overall.
Yeah. I think he's still a huge priority. I mean, it's always interesting. I mean, it seems like every visit things kind of shift.
Right.
But I think there's something to it. I mean, we talked about it a few weeks ago. I mean, I've always kind of felt like USC was more of competition than what Georgia was going to be for Nebraska. But I mean, he's taking his visits. I think Nebraska is kind of well aware of where they stand with him. I think they're confident that they're in a good spot, and you do kind of have to have your backups in place and be ready to shift. And just looking at that visit list for March 25th, I mean, there's 3 5-star guys who are coming in that are pretty big targets. You've got a lot of in-state guys that are going to be on campus that Nebraska's invested a lot of time and energy into recruiting, in the short time that Matt Rule's been there. So, I think when you have the number one overall quarterback in the country, a guy that you feel good about his talent, and he has the connections that the Rayola's have to Nebraska, I think you have to play that string out. And, I think he is the top target on their board, and you see what happens. But I don't get the sense that, the staff is panicked about kind of where things stand with that. I mean, I just think that, the Rayola family is doing their due diligence with everything, especially after, opening it up after decommitting from Ohio State. So, still the top target, I think. And we'll be pretty darn close to the top of that list until probably till he signs. I mean, if we're being honest.
Bruntz, let me get you out on this, and I'm going to give you 3 minutes only because you're an efficient wordsmith. I got a DM in yesterday. It's pretty interesting. And what she was basically talking about is she's kind of struggling, and she's in education, so she understands the prowess of delivery and words and consistency and all that thing and those kinds of things to lead. And she says, I'm kind of struggling with this balance of fluff versus the off season versus, man, I really want to rally around this. As a guy that's really good with words and efficient, do you check yourself periodically when you hear this staff talk? Like, I don't even like Kool-Aid. I drink my coffee black. Like, am I in the right headspace? Like, are they that good where you take self-inventory?
I don't know. I mean, I think as time has passed, and as coaching staffs have come and gone, and you're in the honeymoon period right now, and it's a great place to be, right? You haven't played games yet. You're building things. You're getting to know everybody. It's a good place to be. I think I think this staff, though, to their credit, has struck a pretty good tone. To where they're at. Not only, to the guys in that locker room, I think there's a lot of buy-in, right now, just based on kind of what I've come to understand. But I think they're doing the right things, outside too. I mean, they're doing the social media part of it, which I think is important. They're walking the walk when it comes to, getting into high schools. I mean, I feel like if there's been a coaches clinic that's been held between now and January, there's been a Nebraska football coach at it somewhere in this country. Like they're getting out and doing that too. So I think, I always think a little bit of skepticism is always a little bit healthy, but I do think you have to give credit to the staff for what they've done to this point of, trying to get this thing rolling. And, the other thing that I come back to, and I think we've talked about this too, but they've done what they've said they were going to do. And I think that's an important piece of it, whether it's been the way they've recruited, whether it's been the way that they've, built their roster, the way that they've kind of approached strength and conditioning. There's a lot of intent behind it. And I think that they've been pretty straightforward with people about, this is our approach. This is what it's going to look like. And they've followed that up too.
Michael Bruntz, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks so much. We'll talk again soon.
Full gamut, Bruntsy. Appreciate you.
Senior writer for Husker 24/7 at Michael Bruntz.
He's hilarious.
Twitter. Great interview there. I'm not one to tap us on the back, but that was a fun interview. I can acknowledge
it's probably
that,
more
right?
him than us.
Yeah.
Do you know how you know a guy is funny? He doesn't even know it. He just is. That's Bruntsy.
Yeah, he doesn't have to laugh at himself like we do.
Clear.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hale Varsity Radio.
I'm smiling at DB as we come out of the break here because we are watching the Big Ten Network, which is just running the reruns of the Nebraska loss. Thank you, Big Ten Network, for reminding us. But you know, Bruce Weber's at the podium, and I looked at DB and I go, this guy looks like, because of it, look at it how he's looking at the side right now. He looks like he could be on a piece of currency, like a coin or a bill. So then I was asking DB if he had cash on him so that we could maybe have like a little comparison.
I get it, with the hair's kind of whipped like butter.
And like the chin
the silver
is
fox,
a little poked out.
He looks like a guy that needs to just.
Tell me that doesn't look like you just paid $10.
You kind of want to just see him relax. Right, but you also don't want to be the guy on television that looks like he's at the house in his lazy
kicking
boy.
the feet up. Right.
But he's like, are they getting my my best. And look, you know us. We got comfy chairs. I haven't sat up since we got these.
That is true. And at first, you were like, "Man, these chairs aren't going to last," because the bolts were coming loose, and you're like,
That was before the bolts came loose. I was like, "Well, they have these screws."
"Oh, that's
and then
right."
about 3 weeks in, you're like, "DB, man, you may have made the call on these chairs. They're kind of loose." And then you saved the day.
What did I have on me?
The trusty Allen
The
wrench.
trusty Allen wrench.
When you gave that thing to me, full disclosure, I was like,
"Why do you have this?"
Number one. Number two, I can't
You're
believe
nuts.
this is actually going to work. And it worked.
Believe it or not, some of my ideas are good.
Anything they give you for free that comes with something, chances
You never
are
keep.
it never.
You never keep, or you just throw it in the toolbox, and you're like, maybe I'll need it.
My buddy who does a lot of stuff around the house, Chris Kravanik, something was wrong with like my garbage disposal. Who's doing that? Is this poltergeist?
It's got to be somebody back there that is controlling, or it's Shane.
How is our TV changing
Shane
channels
throws his
with
hands up.
nobody in here? I didn't see anybody pull up. Did you?
No, but they may have driven around back, and we may have just missed them.
Okay, that's weird. Let's do the walk around.
You want to take off the headset and just make a lap?
Well, you can hide under the bed. I'm getting in the closet.
Here we are. Here we go.
But, so it's like, I forgot what I was going to say now.
I don't know. You got sidetracked by the TV.
Yeah, because it shouldn't just be changing channels. Should it? I know one. Listen, I know one thing.
Some things are weird.
I know one thing. If something happens to me at work, because we're
Blame
not
the
saying,
TV.
yeah, and I'm calling dire law. Listen, if you're confused about the options or workers' compensation claims, put your trust in the team at Dire Law just to help ensure that you're protected. That's all I'm worried about. You can go hide. I want to be protected when I have to call Bill and
Can I
Chris
hide
and say,
and be protected?
yes, just don't be under the bed. Just make sure that we call the folks at Dire Law. That team is 402-393-7529, or you can visit Dire Law to chat with a trusted professional about your workers' compensation claim. That's dire.law.
Hey, can you kick me in the face real fast?
No, but listen, though.
Right there.
Are we really going to act like this isn't happening?
DB, let it go. Let it go. They didn't even change the channel. It's almost like somebody accidentally sat on the TV remote and it just went to guide.
I blame my family a lot for those kinds of things. And do you know who it is 99% of the time?
Shane.
The dog.
That actually doesn't shock me. I don't let my dog on the couch, so it would never be my dog.
Oh, that is so anti-stereotype. Usually... Oh, do I want to go here? Probably not. Usually there's other kinds of people
that's a
that
WWBD thing.
That like ride with dogs on their laps and carry them everywhere.
I know what you're saying.
Kiss them in the face and get
I'll
in
kiss
the
my
bed.
dog in the face.
Well, but they can't get on your couch.
Nope.
See, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking
But she'll get
about.
on the couch without us being there. And it's funny because we have a camera.
Did you see how I
in
danced
the living
around
room.
that hole?
Yep. Yeah, you got it. You did it. And I let it go.
Let it go.
But no, she'll get up on the couch and then she'll realize she's not supposed to do it.
Yeah.
So you'll see on the pet cam that she's up there for 10 minutes and then she'll get off and go to her bed. It's hilarious. She may be on it right now. I'll look at it during the break.
Hey, what you need to do is send out that video you falling over your couch again trying to hide from your dog.
It's better than under the bed.
Well, you didn't want to die. It's a drama.
Well, I practically did die.
Well, if it was a thriller versus a horror movie, we would know.
Okay. I admitted my defeat there.
What's your clear beverage choice? Should we ask Ron Johnson?
Yeah,
okay, see, now they're messing with us. The channels are changing. Is it Bill?
I don't know because these TVs are now on. Those weren't on.
Okay, we're going to have to open those doors.
I don't know if you want to. You don't like those doors open.
Guess what? I'm black. I'm not going first. They're always the first to die in horror movies. You go.
Unless it's Zombieland, because then it's the people that maybe a little overweight.
Maybe we could trip over the the tree branch of the thousands that are in the forest when we're running, but they always manage to step on one.
Hey, how Andrew is this? I can't believe I'm going back to this. I don't let my dog on the couch, but I let her on the bed. Like, how Andrew is that?
That's pretty Andrew.
Because it's particular, right?
WWBD. Guarantee your mom would it be a free for all. They could just love one another. I just want to hug the dogs. I just want to love.
Snuggler.
Your mom's a lover. You got a little berry in you, though. You can do this, even though it's roughly the same, but you can't do this.
DB, it's exactly the same.
Principle.
It's exactly the same.
Is Barry's middle name Principles?
Probably. It is Lee. So if you take out the princip and just put the LE, you get there.
Yeah, him too. By the way, could the Steelers get him in free agency?
Oh man, could you imagine?
I want them to go get TJ Edwards though. Do you like that just non-segue segue?
We're all about segue, non-segues.
Squirrel. Need a drink?
Not later. We're gonna do 6-pack.
Yes, I do. Please.
We're gonna do the 6-pack.
He's still mad
at 9:45 about Menards.
No, I'm never mad about Menards. I'm mad about my car.
Well, you were at Menards.
Well, okay, yeah, okay.
Does Menards take any blame?
Can I say one other thing about that?
He keeps saying, "Can I say?" After like the 7th time and us giving you permission, which you don't need as a 47-year-old adult.
No, I'm
just
only 37.
Just talk.
Okay.
Do we need to put you in the promos to make it official?
Nobody puts baby in the corner.
Andrew, Damon, and Shane.
I'll take it.
Maybe we just say and Shane every time we come back. And Shane.
Don't blame Shane.
Go ahead, Shane.
He's mad.
You gonna say one more thing?
I'm pretty mad about it, but I don't know. Can I just drink?
Hey, Eric on YouTube says,
don't we have
did
beer
anyone
around here?
else see that head poke around the banners behind DB? No, that's just Shane in his little window.
Oh,
I don't
he's
know.
messing with me.
Yeah, he's messing with you.
Hey,
He's on TV.
so Shane, because we have a couple of folks that get in the comment section on StreamYard that we can't respond to.
Mm-hmm.
And was it Brian that was mad at us?
It was Brian, yep.
I don't want Brian mad at us.
No, he did mention, and we have yet to mention how
Do I have to be a
Ogallala
user?
played. But no, we have to be the host of it, and we're not a host. We're technically a guest because the link gets sent to us. So that's why we can't respond on there.
Well,
See,
I want to be.
I can respond, but I mean, I'm a little
Slow.
I'm a little on edge today, so it probably wouldn't be very nice.
And you're extremely slow.
But you probably don't want me doing it today because I'd be like, well, you could call 888-638-4876 anytime
That's another
you
way
want.
to get involved.
And that's a way to get involved. Or you can go to Twitter and you can follow at Damon Benning, or you can follow at Andrew Rogers TV, and you can get at him that way.
I feel like I've said this before. Keep going.
Or you can follow at Schillerberg, and I'll probably just ignore your ass. But but seriously though, I mean, and then maybe he's not aware of that, and he wants to. Our guy Brian here, who we don't want to be mad at, he just wants to communicate via the StreamYard like that, and you guys don't have the option to do that.
Hey, something that I thought about too with high school hoops, and this one really came out. Do you remember when I was sick and I was talking about the pitch clock, and then somebody came and said, like, well, people were hesitant about the shot clock too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, that's a good point. Like, it's a very good point. But it had me thinking, especially about the shot clock and the lack thereof in Class B girls when Elkhorn North and Skutt were playing. Because, and here's why I've always been a shot clock guy, and this kind of ties back into Auburn winning against Wahoo. But, Britt Prince and her team did such a good job defensively guarding the basketball for 35 to 40 seconds. And then all of a sudden they would tire out and Skutt would capitalize because that's how their offense was built. So the shot clock in a way is not just to speed up the game. It's to reward good defense.
And I'm having this conversation as a sidebar on Twitter. Elite level fitness. Do you know who has elite level fitness? Britt Prince.
Alec Noonan.
Elite.
Caleb Benning.
Elite.
A lot of guys.
I didn't want to say
gals.
my own son.
But I'll add him in.
It's all good.
Sports Six Pack presented by Zipline up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Time now for the Sports Six Pack on Coffee and Cream with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning. Presented by Zipline Brewing Company, makers of Dear Old Nebraska Brew, the official beer of Nebraska alumni.
How about that? Zipline Brewing.
You
Bringing
like
us the
that?
Sports Six Pack. Also providing us some new cans. Some
Let me
new
see that,
brews.
Kolsch.
Which one would you like? The blue one?
So this one right here is Oklahoma Tyler's favorite. He is every place he
Crisp,
goes,
golden.
he goes, I'll take the Zipline Kolsch. Lock stock. Lock it up.
This one seems like a very classic beer.
I don't
Crisp,
know.
golden, refreshing. This green IPA, hoppy, bright, tropical, sounds great too.
Hoppy?
Hoppy.
Hoppy.
Yep. Hoppy, because we're hoppy.
Did you ever see Hop with the rabbit? I don't even want to ask you because it'll be 5 more minutes and we'll never finish.
We'll never do the six pack.
I gotta stop doing that so we don't get led astray, run amok.
You know what I have to say?
So it's a line in Malcolm X's movie. Have you ever seen it? If you ever get a free 3 hours, just watch it.
Say less. Say less. You know what I have to say whenever I see a high school kid dunk at the state tournament?
What?
Dang! The new Zipline beer.
You're a child. That was actually kind of funny because this whole time, full disclosure, I feel like I need to raise my hand. Would you like to call me? Do you know what I thought? Do you know what I thought that said when I pulled the boxes up this morning when we got here? Because I figured you would just roll the can around and there would be more words.
What do you think it said?
Danger.
I was going to say that, but I didn't want to be wrong, so I didn't say it.
I thought it said danger. But it's
Danger.
dang.
Dang.
So they got dang and like mosaic and a lot of things.
They have everything.
Yeah.
Anything for your taste. Zip line brewing.
Shane's been asking to drink for 3 hours.
Hey, Shane, you want to crack open one?
No, you don't.
Yeah, he does.
Can I just drink instead? Or do I really have to read
Is
all
that
this?
question number 1?
Yes, you can drink instead. Question number 2.
Okay. Do you think more people are excited or sad at the news of Jim Boeheim retiring? Well, dang.
I think a lot of people are excited that he won't be coaching anymore. But are more people excited? No, I'd say more people are probably sad. I mean, he's an icon. He's a legend. He longest coaching tenure next to Coach K.
It's hard because I gotta, I gotta respect my
Respect
elders.
the man.
Can't stand him.
Well, and you're not the only person that would say that.
Never liked him. I thought these last 10, 12 years it was.
And you're an ACC guy.
Yep. So I see him all the time, and just the disrespect, the indifference, the I'm bigger than.
There's a lot of that with him.
And how
even like that retirement speech.
How disjointed was that yesterday?
Oh my goodness!
They couldn't even get that right.
Hey, are you retiring? I don't know. It's not up to me. Well, do you want to retire? Well, I'm not going to say I'm going to retire.
Well, what happened to that last week when I gave my retirement? I'm like,
come on, guy.
You can't even do that right.
Just because you lost to Wake Forest doesn't mean you take it out on me.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't trick off early leads that you had in the first half and then act like you can't throw it in the ocean. Good on Wake. Not that I had a vested interest because I did not, but I wish I would have.
If you are building a team from scratch at the player's current age, are you taking who on Creighton, and are you taking?
So who are you taking on Creighton,
and who are you on Nebraska?
Okay.
Wait, what?
So if you're starting a team from scratch, and you're taking them at their current age, and I guess you're starting 2 teams. Who are you taking on Nebraska? Who are you taking?
One
on,
apiece?
Yeah, on Creighton.
Give me Derek Walker and Trey Alexander.
Derek Walker at his current age?
Yeah, 25. I'll beat kids.
Okay.
He's not. He hasn't even hit his peak yet.
Yeah, but I'm saying so. Like, if you're building the college team,
yeah,
you're going to take 1 year of Derek Walker.
I only get him for 1 year.
Well, it's his current age. So, like, I wouldn't take Griesel or Derek Walker.
I'm taking Trey Alexander.
I would take Trey.
And I'm going to take, well, I may not take a Husker then. I'm going to take Trey Alexander, and I will take.
I take Lawrence.
I don't know if that's sustainable, but I hope it is because he plays hard.
And he can shoot.
Oh, you know what? You talked me into it.
I didn't really have to do too much.
No, because I kind of like, I like Johnny Lawrence, and he's on the come, on the way up.
And I like the young guy.
Yeah.
That's who I would do. I would do Trey Alexander too. I was thinking Kalkbrenner because you could still get him for another year. Oh, maybe I'll change to Kalk.
I like versatility.
I'm gonna do Lawrence and Kalk.
Give me the old school nostalgic name of a Johnny Lawrence and Trey Alexander. Never guess they look the same.
If you could see one and only one, would you desire a Big East championship, a Big Ten championship, or a NCHC championship?
Well, the Big Ten championship's out the window now.
If I could see, is this like currently or just ever?
Currently.
Because Big Ten championship is by a mile.
Right, currently.
Of what's left?
Now it's Big East and
NCHC. Even though Omaha is my favorite school, I remember I'd rather be right than well liked. And I said Creighton would win the Big East tournament. So I'm going to go with Big East, even though the Mavs are my favorite.
Yeah, I have the personal tie with Omaha takes it for me. I'd love to see that group win the Frozen Face-Off. I mean, this is a team that nobody expected, and then here they are continually turning heads. Now they're becoming an expectation, and I like the story behind that.
And we have Hurrdat Sports has big things coming with the Mavericks.
Yeah, hold tight.
So I'm pretty excited about that.
So just hold on for one more day?
Hold on. Yeah, too bad you can't play that song.
You can't play any song.
Can't monetize it.
Could teams in need of a quarterback also willing to pass on Lamar because of the various other quarterbacks in FA that would provide a better
Free
bang for
agency?
their buck?
Okay, let's
So
read
we
that again.
so we passing on Lammer.
So could teams in need of a quarterback willing to pass on Lamar? Is that because of other quarterbacks in free agency that may provide a better bang for their buck?
No. I think if you're willing to pass on Lamar, I think it's just due to principle. I don't think anybody with a brain thinks they're going to get a better quarterback in free agency.
But maybe they're trying to get like a Jimmy Garoppolo and pair him with a first.
No, I understand. I understand. I completely understand. I just don't know if there's another quarterback close.
No,
where that. So if you
Light years
even
away.
even a 2-for-1, even if you give me Jimmy plus a pick, I don't know if that would make me
Wouldn't
not
be Lamar.
No. Give me L-Jack.
Yeah, I'd take Lamar Jackson too, and I said that yesterday. I still can't believe you're willing to risk and take a first-round pick. And not to say that these kids aren't talented. These guys aren't talented, but I'll take the 26-year-old MVP.
Yeah, me too.
If you got invited to sit courtside at an NBA game, which celebrity do you hope is sitting next to you at the game? That's a good question. I like that.
If
you got invited to sit courtside at a NBA game,
Yeah.
which celebrity do you hope is sitting next to you at the game?
Easy for me.
I'm easy too.
I'm Jack Nicholson.
I'm sitting next to Drake.
Dude, I thought you'd say Spike Lee.
That would be nuts.
Yeah, because I could see I could just see you losing
No, Drake
your
and
mind.
I feel like Drake and I have a similar personality. Like
You gravitate towards who's ever winning.
well, maybe, but I was thinking more the gambling side of things. Like, we can hang out after the game.
You guys would be like going through.
I'll be like, hey, Drake, give me your money.
Yeah, listen, you'd be the guy that say, hey, listen, man, I know in like this song you said this, and this, but have you ever thought about using like these lyrics? And Drake would look at you and be like, boy, this ain't no Degrassi High. I'm Drake.
I'll be like, Drake, how do we get you back to excellence? How do we get you back?
I'm going back to back. As long as you're not like Pusha T, you'd be all right. The greatest diss response ever.
I don't know. Jack could give you a lot of insight on the game. He's seen pretty much every home game for the last
Jack just
30
strikes
years.
me as the type of guy that would be so cool. He'd say, Damon, you order whatever you want. Me and Helen Hunt will meet you at the bar. He's like, I know you're thinking about that coming out of the rain scene, but it's not really like that. It's as good as it gets. Sorry, Mama Rogers.
In regards to game management and situational coaching, would you ever turn to Madden in the offseason to help perfect some of those scenarios?
Did you see that interview with Kevin Stefanski?
Yeah. It's just not happening.
You're not playing Madden to work on your game management?
No.
Your work of timeouts?
No.
I mean, for me, if you said, Andrew, tomorrow, like you have to coach a football team, the only way I'd be able to do it is if I took the playbook of Madden. The only way I'd be able to do it. So I would have to.
Hey, so is it still by like formation?
Yes.
Okay. So like you need like more than a couple.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm saying like I'm gonna have to.
You'd be getting your.
I'm gonna have to like go through, not like my Andrew Rogers runs 3 plays in Madden to win. No, I'm gonna have to have the whole thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have every set.
Far, near,
and that's just offense.
Do they still have those?
I need defense too.
Like I gotta look at it again and see what the formations are actually called now.
Man,
do you remember old school when there were things like far, near?
Oh yeah,
pro form.
Oh yeah. I played NFL Blitz on the N64 the other day.
Yeah, you still have that?
Oh yeah, we should play.
Bless your heart.
Yeah,
I would get wore out, but I'd take an L just to see it.
It's an insane game. Thanks for joining us. Hopefully you had some fun today. We will see you tomorrow.